Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to CPCECPR Conference 2024. My name is Shi Wen, you can call me Wen, and I'm Senior Lecturer of the Division of Languages and Communication, CPCE PolyU.
I'm Lobo Lo, Lecturer of the Division of Languages and Communication, CPCE PolyU. On behalf of PolyU CPCE Center for Pedagogic Research, we would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you once again. We appreciate you take time off your busy schedule to join us today.
My experience is that if you stay on the last day, this is a test of true love. So the title of today's conference is Transforming Education to Build a Future-Ready Workforce with 3 sub-themes. The first one is AI and EdTech for transforming learning, teaching, and assessment in higher education. The second one is preparing students and graduates for the AI era. And the third one being digital literacy for teacher professional development. May we just take a few minutes to do a very brief photo taking and souvenir presentation. So can I invite Dr. Esther Tong, please take the stage, and then can we have Dr. Sean McMinn, Director of Center for Education Innovation, Hong Kong UST. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. You may take your seat. And Esther, please remain on the stage. And now can we have our very own...
Dr. Macy Wong, can you please come to the stage? Head of CSO, Chairperson of Research Personnel and Student Subcommittee of CPC Center for Pedagogic Research, to receive the souvenir from Dr. Esther Tong.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Wong, please remain on the stage, and Esther as well. And now we'll have a group photo for all the guests. So Dr. Sean McMinn, again, please. And then Dr. Julia Chan, Dr. Benjamin Morehouse, Professor Emil Chan, Dr. Wendy Lee. Okay. Professor David Collis as well. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Could all the online guests please also spend a couple of minutes to turn on your cameras? You don't need to turn on your microphones. We are going to take a picture together. So if you can, please turn on your cameras. And while we are waiting for a group picture, may all the guests please sit a little bit closer to the first 3-4 rows, and we're going to have a group picture on site together.
Thank you. Coming up is our keynote section under the sub-theme, Preparing Students and Graduates for the AI Era. Dear moderators, could you please introduce the keynote speaker, Dr. Julian Chan, please.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Julian Chan, the Director of Educational Development Center, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Julia holds a PhD in applied linguistics and is a principal fellow of Advanced HE. One of her research interests is leveraging technology for quality enhancement. She currently also leads a generative AI-related project that involves all 8 UGC-funded universities in Hong Kong. Would you mind welcoming Julia on stage and show our appreciation? Thank you, Julia.
Good morning, everybody. I should say good morning, what? True love? right? One. So thank you very much. It really is quite early for our second day of conference. So thank you for being here in person. I'm sure you're here to support CPCE. And CPR, definitely worth supporting. This is the third year you have your CPR conference, and I'm very glad to say that I've been here all 3 years in different capacities, but I'm very glad that I can be here. So congratulations on your third year, and all the best for many years to come. Right. So today I am talking about I am a teacher, per se, although I'm now directing the Education Development Center, and I seldom stand behind a lectern when I teach. Okay, so you will see me walking around as well. Okay, right. My topic today is transforming assessment in the age of Gen AI for future-ready graduates, and I hope that tallies with the topic and the theme for this conference. Yesterday, David said that he would follow the structure of an academic publication, and I'm doing something completely different. I am actually ditching that structure because I thought, I only have half an hour, right? So instead of going through the literature, I will dive immediately into some of the key things, and I hope I can have time to go to the very end, because I would like to say that the very end is actually the best, right? You leave the best to the end. So when that is not ready yet, we can just press these to go on. No, that doesn't work either. Okay. So just a bit about the Hong Kong PolyU stands. We all have our university stands by now on Gen AI. What I want to say is, if you just look at the red underlines, you see, of course, we have assessment in the stance. Okay, when we talk about learning and teaching, we cannot not talk about assessment. And in the same way, in our stance for students, in our guidelines for students, when we talk about learning and teaching, of course, we have to mention assessment. And so that is why early last year, actually sometime around April and May, in PolyU, we were already saying, okay, we need to change. In February, we already told everybody in PolyU that we would take a forward and open and forward-looking stance. And we said that one of the first things we need to look at and delve into is assessment, because that is high stakes. Okay, so I'd just like to ask for all of us here and online, in your institution, I guess you must have redesigned assessment as well. The last question here is, did you have any particular considerations or principles when you did those revisions or when you designed new assessments? Okay. In PolyU, we did. Okay. One of the things I did was, in my position, in my role, quite early, actually in June last year, I was invited to write an article for Times Higher Education. And I decided to write it on assessment because that was on our mind all the time. Okay, and I proposed two major principles, as you can see here, very simple, things that would work in real life, things that are grounded, okay? Not just things up in the clouds, but things that would really work in our situation, in our context. And the two guiding principles were simply that the assessment cannot be completed mostly or wholly by Gen AI, and that students need to demonstrate their understanding of the concepts and skills that they have learned. And of course, that brings us to the question of what is learning, right? So we need to understand what learning is. That's okay. That's okay. I'll walk around. That's fine. Thanks very much. Of course, that depends on what learning is, right? Okay, so we need to think about that. David yesterday said students can critique what they learned, what they got from Gen AI outputs. In our university, and I wonder whether that is the same with some of your institutions as well, many of our students, we realize, they may not necessarily critique what Gen AI generated. Instead, they copy without really completely understanding what Gen AI generated. And in some cases, we found that they copied without even having read what Gen AI generated, right? So what is learning? But to those students, they were able to submit things, they were able to answer teacher questions, and they might have thought that they could have learned, right? Anyway, so what I wrote in that article last year was that there are four major approaches that we could take. And the first one is we really have to think about what to do with those assignments previously that were completely just essay writing or literature review, right? Whole papers, what should we do about that? So in PolyU, we said that we should go from that to multimodal explanation and application. Now, multimodal is like this. So for example, in PolyU, we have design, right? So instead of just writing an essay about branding, what they do is they go to a particular district in Hong Kong and they video themselves talking about branding in the location. Okay, on location. And that's something we feel that GenAI can't do for them. They can have GenAI to do all the preparations for them, but the actual assessment, they need to do it themselves right on site. Okay, so that can be multimodal. Okay? It's one form of multimodality. And then another thing is from literature review alone to referencing lectures. That has proven to be quite useful too. Okay, so we still need to teach students the skills of referring to literature. They still need to do that. But can we ask them to actually reference discussions in class and what the teacher said in class? Okay, then they have to come to class, they have to understand what went on in class, and that's something that GenAI can't completely do for them either. Okay, and then number 3 is, instead of 15-minute oral presentations, we suggested shortening the presentations to no more than 5 minutes and use the remaining 10 minutes for Q&A. So every presentation is like a mini Viva. Right? And teachers and classmates can ask questions. So that kind of thing are things that we hope that they really need to demonstrate understanding. Okay, that's what we want to see from assessments, right? And the last one is, in PolyU, we have been talking about student-staff partnership. And yesterday, David and Gail Forey also talked about co-creation. This is what we want to do in PolyU too. We have been promoting student-staff partnership, and I'll give you some more examples later on. Anyway, and since then, since June, when I submitted this article to HE, I have added that we also want to do just from one summative assessment to multi-stage assessments. Now, those of us who come from language teaching background, like the few of us here on the front row, we know what it means by process writing. Okay, many of us have done process writing. But for a lot of our colleagues in engineering, building, right, they haven't been doing process writing per se. Okay, and we have been trying to inculcate this, okay, and say, hey, in this era of Gen AI, maybe you can do multi-stage assessment. You do something, you ask the students to do something, and you can give them feedback. AI can give them feedback, maybe. And then you ask them to do the next part based on feedback, and the first part can be different from the second part, can be different from the third part, etc. Okay, so that's something else that we have been trying to encourage in PolyU. Now, what else have we been doing? So this is what I call the first set of considerations when we're designing assessments. The second set of considerations is what the world needs, okay? So we think about what we ourselves want, but we also need to know what the world needs for our future graduates, right? This is a theme for your conference today as well. We're preparing students for the future. So we look at the labor market, we looked at what the labor market tells us that are the preferred skill sets. So we looked at things like Merrill Lynch, okay, and they tell us that actually AI is going to impact US and China the most, as you can see here, right? And we looked at things like JP Morgan, okay, and they tell us that, hey, STEM students or future STEM graduates are not exempted from the AI transformation. Okay, there are some people who think that only the humanities students or maybe accountancy students are most affected. But no, actually STEM students can be very much affected as well. Bless you. And then, of course, I've been showing this many, many times because this one has Hong Kong on the chart, okay? So if you have seen it, excuse me, if you haven't seen it, be astonished, okay? Because Hong Kong is on the chart and is right there at the very end with the highest bar. Can you see that? And that is globally what Goldman Sachs thinks, how much percent of the work will be automated by AI, and the highest bar is Hong Kong. But also, this one, the highest bar is also Hong Kong. What that means is they think because so much of Hong Kong's work will be automated by AI, the productivity of Hong Kong's output will also grow. Okay. Now, we've also been looking at PwC, and PwC did a survey that included Hong Kong employers, and they think that Hong Kong employees think that AI will have a mostly positive impact on their jobs. Great. And they also think about that would lead to increase in productivity and efficiency. And, of course, people need to learn new skills. Okay. Oh, thanks. Is this working now? Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you. Oh, fabulous. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so we also looked at QS, of course, right? Okay, so all these, they tell us what kind of skills they're looking for in future graduates. And we looked at other things. I'm sure many of you have done that too. We looked at Economic Forum, okay? Looked at what they think about the skills outlook. I'm not giving you the details because that's not my major thing, okay? But you can easily look up the internet and you'll find all the information. Oh, the good thing about, sorry. Oops. what have I done? My chubby finger has pressed the wrong button. That's what I did. Okay. The good thing with World Economic Forum, if you are interested, is that they look at 46 economies, and Hong Kong is one of those. So they actually have a page just for Hong Kong. Isn't that wonderful? Okay, so that's why we looked at that. And then OECD, they looked at jobs in 2030. And then UNESCO, many of us must have looked at that because UNESCO has been very active in talking about skills and framework and parameters for Gen AI era. And then we also looked at European Universities Association. And then we told the university, okay, here's a summary, that it seems from all these different websites. Oh, and we looked at trends websites too. LinkedIn, Forbes, or a lot of the trends websites too. And we found that these are 5 of the things that were mentioned repeatedly, okay? And we said that, hey, maybe these are some of the things that we really need to hone our student skills in, okay? So for example, tax savviness, of course, that is nothing surprising at all, right? Creative, critical problem-solving skills, communication, and collaboration. We found that these two very often come together in those reports, okay? So what's communication for collaboration, for example? Right? Adaptability and lifelong learning, and then leadership and also self-leadership and management. So that's the second set of data. Oops, what did I do? That we looked at. Okay, so what did we do then regarding assessment, right? Okay, what we did was, like many institutions, and yours, I'm sure, we did a lot of workshops. Workshop after workshop after workshop, open to all generic runs. And we did a lot of meetings with every single department, every single faculty, right? And we did individual consultations as well. And then we also did this. We said to them, we are going to collect samples of assessments from everybody. Okay, and we want to know the situation, the real situation in each department. We want to know what your ideas are, what your difficulties are, and then we can do some central analysis and we can share the good things and the pitfalls with everybody. Okay, so that was what we did. Let me make sure that I press the right button. Yes. Okay. So in the summer of 2023, we gave them some months to do their revised assessment, and we said to each department, we want to collect at least 1 assessment from you at undergraduate level, because many of our departments, of course, have postgraduate levels as well, right? So we said, okay, we want to collect at least 1 assessment from you at undergraduate level, and together with that assessment, please tell us what your plan is for the whole course, so we know how that assessment fit in that course. Okay, that kind of thing. So we asked for all these. And we asked them to tell us their ideas and difficulties and the concepts behind all these, right? And then what we did was we recruited 2 assessment consultants, and together with our own staff, we reviewed every single submission. Okay, we got 40 submissions that we could analyze together, and we had some guiding principles for the whole team to analyze the assessments based on the 2 principles and 4 approaches I talked about, but based on other things as well that we all came up with. Okay, so that we sort of had consistency in our review of assessments. Okay. And we collected 40 assessments for analysis, and some are writing-based, some are speaking-based, and all are open book and take-home non-invigilated assessments. Okay, and we gave them written feedback for every single assessment, and then we also offered more workshops and more tailored consultations, okay, for the departments. And what we found were these. We had 5 observations, and we also realized that there were 4 dilemmas. So the 5 observations are these. We are very glad to see that in the assessments, they really focused on, for example, students' active engagement in the assessment. It's wonderful, okay, because we wanted that to be one of the foci. They looked at OBE. Okay, so we're very glad that they explicitly told us that one of their considerations was outcome-based assessment and whether the assessment aligned with the learning outcomes. And a number of them also talked about how they made sure that their revised assessment looks at ethical and effective use of Gen AI, right, and academic integrity. Okay, so that's the first observation. The second observation was, a a couple of departments, not many, they decided to change their in-class assessment to end of semester exam or to a midterm test. Okay, not a lot, but there were examples. The top one was from an engineering department, and the second one was from a translation. So I'm just giving you 2 examples. Not a lot, but they do. But we are not completely blaming them, because if you look at the last point there, the translation people also told us that they decided to do this because that is authentic. That is like real life. Very often in real life, when someone is being asked to do some interpretation, you cannot say, hey, wait, let me go check up Gen AI first and then answer you, right? You have to do it immediately, all right? So we understand that there are authentic contexts that call for this kind of assessment. The third observation we had was many of the assignments actually try to embrace Gen AI, try to include Gen AI, okay? And they did it in different ways. For example, if you look at the left-hand side, you will see that some of them require students to declare what Gen AI tools they use and how they use them. That was in our PolyU institutional policy. Okay, we told staff to do that. And many of them try to put more emphasis on process than on the final product. Hooray, yes. And then a number of them asked students to do some kind of multimodal explanation. Yay! And then some asked them to do more on the defense of views. Wonderful. And then some of them actually asked them to reference student learning experience and not just the literature. Okay, so we are very glad to see some of these changes. Okay. The fourth observation that we had was some teachers decided to ask students to critique Gen AI output, very much like what David said yesterday. Okay, and that's good too. Okay, so they asked them to deliberately use Gen AI and then critique and comment, evaluate the effectiveness of that output. Okay, the relevance of that output, for example. That's good. And some went beyond that to actually put that in the assessment rubrics. Okay, they asked them to evaluate the use of Gen AI and to what extent they evaluate the use of Gen AI is actually in the rubrics as well. So that's wonderful. Okay, that's completely aligned. All right, so those are the observations. I mean, this is one of the examples. So this is from a civil engineering course. And students are asked, if you just look at the red words, if you just read the red words, then you can see that students are asked to seek assistance from ChatGPT through interactive queries, and then students have to show their teachers how they did the prompting, how interactive they were, right? And then a grade is given, 25% of the whole assessment on how well they have actually used Gen AI. So I must say that our teachers have really put some thought into revising their assessment. Okay, we keep telling them, don't use the same assessment, because if you do, it's going to be a no-win situation for teachers. Okay, if at the end of the semester you have to go and argue with the students that student had plagiarized, you cannot win. Okay, we did many workshops where we show them how we input real essays and Gen AI essays into different plagiarism detection websites, and we show them how the outputs that we got from those plagiarism detection websites, and told them, hey, you cannot argue with a student. You cannot effectively argue with a student. So we said, professors, you must be very busy with your research, right? Mm-hmm. So if you still want to put a lot of time in your research, then please put some time now, redesign your assessments so that later on you don't have to put time in arguing with your students whether they have plagiarized or not. Okay? Okay. So that's how we have been telling our academic staff. Okay, observation 6 is we asked our 2 assessment consultants to tell us where our different departments can further improve. Okay, so here are just some areas where they can further improve. Now, teacher dilemmas. I said just now, we talked to teachers, right? We asked them in your redesign of assessments, what were your considerations, etc., etc. And we found that they had 4 main dilemmas. A number of them thought about changing their in-class assessment to, changing their take-home assessment to in-class test. Okay, whether they did it in the end or not was another thing, but they told us that honestly, that really crossed their mind, because that to them would probably be the easiest way out. Okay, but then they also knew that might not be authentic in many cases, right? And so they decided in the end not to. Okay, but that was one of the dilemma. The second one was, to what extent should they tell students how to do the assessment? can they just tell them, hey, Sean, just go and use Gen AI in whatever way you like, and then come back and submit your assignment, okay? Or should they say, to make sure that you use it properly, I have to give you 10 steps, and within each step, I have to give you 2 sub-steps, okay? So that kind of thing. They didn't know how prescriptive they need to go into, okay? So that was the second dilemma. The third dilemma, of course, is whether students should be told to use Gen AI tools or not. Should they be told exactly which one to use? Should they have a free hand or what? Okay, or should they actually design assessment in such a way that whatever tools students use, they still need to use their own brain before they can actually submit their assignment? Okay, and the last one is how much change? Okay. Remember, this was, we started talking to them about this last April, May, June, July, right? So at that time they were thinking, can we just make superficial changes for this coming semester and then maybe review and then do further revisions next year? Or should we try to make big changes right from the start? Okay, so those were the questions that were on their mind. Very reasonable, okay? So my role and the staff in my center, what we do is we talk to staff, we talk to departments, as I said, one by one, because each department is different. Okay. Now, so the revised assessment work, let me see how much time I have. I don't have much time, I'll go very quickly. So we did go back and ask the departments, did your assessment work? Right? And then we also asked them to go and do sharing with the rest of the university community. And in fact, just very recently, as you can see, April the 8th was the most recent one. We had staff from School of Optometry and from Building Real Estate share how theirs have worked, where they didn't work, their assessment didn't work, and how they were going to change for the coming academic year, 24-25. Okay, so I'll skip these. I have given my slides to Eric, so you can have my slides as well. You can look at these in more detail, okay? And feel free to contact me afterwards if you'd like me to explain any of this in more detail. So anyway, they talked about the steps they took, the findings from students and from teachers, what worked and what didn't work, and what they are going to do next, okay? How they have reflected on this, etc., etc. And this is from the Building Real Estate. They used something very authentic because we have student halls. We have a new strip of land from the government, okay? And they're saying, okay, so you now go and design this. Design the use of this land. Okay, so that's very authentic, and students were highly involved, highly engaged. Okay, when students see the usefulness of what they do, they're very willing to apply what they have learned in class to the authentic context. Okay, so again, I'm flipping through these, but you will have my slides. Okay, and again, I say, if you want to talk more about this, please feel free to email me. So what else have we done? Okay, so we collected assessments, and besides revising assessment and developing new ones to address the Gen AI era, we are also doing a few things. We are developing self-access learning platforms, especially for writing, written and oral communication. Okay, and we are putting even more emphasis on authentic assessment. I'll say a bit more later on because we feel we think that has worked very well this year. Okay, so we're putting even more emphasis on that. And our professor of iHeart is here, and we are going to look at ways that we can use AI to intelligently help students who have remedial needs, for example. Okay, a lot of our students come in to our university without, for example, the calculus background, but they are actually in engineering programs, right? But there isn't enough space in the curriculum to actually go through every single bit of calculus before they can take the real engineering courses. So we're thinking of using AI to help us with many different things, okay? David and Gail both talked about reducing the number of assessments yesterday. And I have been saying in my university that we need to declutter our curriculum. Very similar, actually, okay? You need to declutter because otherwise students don't have the mental capacity to take on more. You want them to learn, you need to give them space. You need to give them cognitive space to take in more. Okay, so that's something that we've been thinking about as well. And of course, I'm involved in writing the university's next strategic plan, and we have been thinking about all these, and these will be going into our strategic plan as well. Okay, so very quickly, we have been working with BU, for example, on developing AI platform to help students with speaking. This is one of them. I'll flip. But have we been very successful? No, it has been very difficult. Okay, we are still trying, we are digging our heels in and we are trying, but it's not easy. What this shows you is this. The blue line is the grade that AI gives to a number of students' oral performances. What do you call it? The brown line is human raters. You can see the human raters go up and down. AI were all like that. So everybody was pretty good. Okay. But we can't tell students that, right? Because if you tell students that, and then in the end, students get a C from the teacher's feedback rating will take a dive. Okay. So we cannot subject our teachers to that kind of plight, right? So we have to be very careful. Anyway, the second thing that we have been doing is we have been trying to see whether we can develop a platform to help students train their writing. Okay, that's the second platform. And we are trying that with a number of subjects. Okay, and we have been doing some preliminary surveys, and so far okay. Students seem to like that more than teachers, honestly. Yeah, we see a lot of flaws, but students say, yeah, that's helpful. Okay. Only very few students say not helpful, you see? Okay. Anyway, the third is an extension of the first one. This came from the engineering department. I'm so glad, because I worked with them. A number of you here know that I have been working on something called English Across the Curriculum. And I worked with this engineering professor in my English Across the Curriculum project, and she got really excited, and she got some funding, and she said, we need to do more on the oral side, because they have so many oral presentations that they ask their engineering students to do in their own engineering subjects. They say the students are the same. Every time they make the same mistakes, okay, no matter how many engineering oral presentations they do. So they really want us to do something in AI to help students prepare their oral presentations better. Okay, so it's good to partner with engineering people who know the technical side. I have no idea how to do the technical side, but they can do the technical side. Anyway, so in PolyU we have been struggling with this. I told Sean about this too. In fact, I wrote to all my counterparts in the 8 universities. I said, after one semester of trying out Gen AI in assessments, we realized that we have guidelines for students, right? We have policies on what extent students can use Gen AI in their assessment, but we don't have policy until the extent that our teachers can use Gen AI. So we looked at these aspects in PolyU. So what should I press, please, Eric? Okay, thank you, please. Okay, so that's a no. Okay, all right. That's a very authoritative no. Okay, all right. Okay, so anyway, you can still take screenshots, I guess. All right, okay. So those are the aspects that we have been talking about within our own university, right? And we are saying that for some of these, no. Some of these, okay. All right, you can guess which ones are which. But ultimately, what we're saying is we need teacher accountability. Right? Whatever you do, the teacher, the subject teacher, and the program leader need to be accountable for the whole subject and the whole program. You cannot shrug off that responsibility, right? But you can be creative, okay? Okay, now, how much time? Not much time. Okay. This one? This one? Okay, all right. So I just want to show that in PolyU we have an excellent assignment. Oh, I think it's so good. It's wonderful. It's so good. In PolyU we teach land surveying, okay? And one of the final assessment is this one. Imagine in the busiest part of Nathan Road or in Central, okay, there is a leakage. Okay, you see the leakage, but you don't really know where it came from, okay? Then what do? You can't just go to Nathan Road and dig up every single inch, right? You have to somehow find out where the source could possibly be. Okay? You cannot just stop all traffic and say, no, look, I'm now going to dig, so you go away, right? You use another street. You can't just do that. Okay? So this was the final assessment for our land surveying students. They are all told to go into an underground lab. They lock themselves in that lab for, so for example, if the assignment is 2 hours and they lock themselves in there for 2 hours, they can use whatever tools they have within the lab. So So they can have access to the internet if they want to, okay? But it's a group exercise, and together they have to find out where the different problems are, how deep, how wide, underground, right? What kind of problem that is, okay? And afterwards, they have to actually give themselves a confidence mark, okay? And their final grade depends on how accurate they were and how confident they were about what they got right, or how confident they were about what they got wrong. So if they got something wrong and they say they were 100% confident about that, then they got negative marks for that. Okay? All right, that kind of thing. Very interesting, because in real life, you need to be confident when you dig, right? Very interesting. So that's very authentic, and they can use whatever tools they have. Okay? All right. And they need to communicate with each other. So there, we don't have to worry about academic integrity in assessments like this, and our graduates are in high demand because they have these skills ready for the workplace. Okay, so I'm very glad to say that just 2 days ago, on Thursday, THE published my second article. Last month, I was invited to write a second article for THE, and I decided to write it on education reform. Okay. So last year, we thought about assessment, and this year, all the assessments were still going on, all the revising and all that still going on. But I'm looking farther at education reform. And I basically asked, and I said it's a time to dare, because to me, this is exciting. Okay, how good it is to be able to be born in this age, right? And to be working in this role at this age. So I asked 3 questions. Again, what is learning, right? What is the value of formal institutional education? When students can just do human-computer interaction, after COVID, they would prefer to work from home or study from home. What bids them to come to campus, right? Not just because we force them to. What attracts them? Okay, what can we do to our education that truly prepares them for the future, that gives them value? So much value that they would think that if they miss my lesson, it is their loss. Okay, so this is what we have to do. And then, staying relevant. Relevance is a key question. How are we staying relevant in this new era? Okay, I don't want to play catch-up game. Those of you who know me, I hate having to catch up all the time. Keep up is better than catch up. Okay? But I tell my staff and my students, I still teach, like Sean, both of us, we teach. And I tell my students, we have to ride on the waves of change. We cannot be overwhelmed and drowned in these waves of change. Okay? So how do we keep our head above water? How do we survive? How do we actually come up victorious? Okay? So very quickly, what is learning? In the context of assessment, I would say that our students are very pragmatic, okay? So we have to think about learning via assessment. We need to, again, declutter the curriculum and the syllabus, and we need to have more adaptive self-learning courses, okay? You can read my article if you want more, okay? It's out on the internet. What is the value of formal institutional education? This is something that I've been talking with our Vice President of Education, because as I said, we're working on the next strategic plan that will take us to 2031. Okay, so I'm looking forward to whether institutional education, can still be of value in 2031. And we have to look beyond human technology interactions. We have to give them enriching educational experiences. And in PolyU, we are looking at not just interdisciplinary experiences, but transdisciplinary collaboration. Okay, and how that can bring students back in. And we are talking a lot still about student-staff partnership. I talked about that a little bit just now, and very similar to what David said about co-creation. Students can co-create with each other, then they can co-create with staff. And in the Gen AI era, this is what we have been doing. Okay, so for example, this is an example in our building and engineering department, staff members and the former students. So for example, if this is a year 1 course, then we ask students who are now in year 3 or year 4 who took that year 1 course a few years ago, okay, to co-work with the teacher to redesign the assessment. Okay, and that has worked. This is real examples. Okay, and that has worked very well in the past semester. And in EDC, in my center, we believe that students can direct. They can hold their own floor, They have lots of ideas, okay? They are highly valuable partners, not just students. So we do a lot of these student-directed series where students can shine, they can talk about whatever is their passion, and they teach each other. They can teach staff too. Okay, and then the third question is how do we stay relevant? And number one, of course, upskilling and reskilling. We ourselves need that, okay? And need to make sure that our staff in PolyU go through that as well. We need flexible, timely responses. Adaptability is so important. And I also say that we need to connect across sectors. For example, academia and the industry, right? If we truly want to prepare students for the unknown unknowns, and for jobs that do not exist yet, we need to dare. So again, we need to dare, but this is an exciting time. And if we dare, I'm sure we can come up victorious in education reform. And in my article, I said not only education reform, but we can also redefine higher education and we can elevate higher education. So let's join hands together and do that together. Well, thank you very much.
So now we welcome questions and interaction with Julia. Thank you so much for the wonderful sharing just now. Yeah, a lot of very useful ideas. Anyone who would like to hold the mic from the floor? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Emil Chen. I'm a part-time lecturer. So from time to time, I struggle when I give marks because as a part-time lecturer, I don't have a clear marking scheme because from different schools, they have different ways to do the marking. So in such a case, I can see the future. Okay, it saves my time a lot, and it will be unbiased. But may I ask, is there any extension that it is for employer? Say, if the program can increase the transparency as an employer, I can see deeper. I can see the performance. I can see, the development of the candidates. So that's my question.
Thank you, Prof. Chen. Thank you. Okay, there are a couple of things that immediately come to mind. Those of you who know me, you know that I'm a learning analytics person, okay? And in PolyU, we have been doing a lot of learning analytics, and I've been publishing in this area as well. So the first thing that came to mind, Prof. Chen, is confidentiality, okay? We can give, I guess university institutions, different institutions, can give some sort of data to employers, to the industry. But there's up to a certain level only, I guess, right? Because if we share a particular person's history of grades or assessment performances, let's say somebody wants to know about Esther Tong, right? And without any qualms, I just say, okay, yes, okay, I can just take out Esther Tong's information, I can send it to you. No, I can't really do that, right? Hong Kong has privacy ordinance, and we need to be careful about that too, right? So I guess we can, with big data, and a lot of digital data, right? And digitalized data, I guess we can be in a better position to be able to provide big brushes, overall data, but not as detailed as a single person. Okay. Of course, I mean, if you truly want to do something like that, then we have to go back to Esther and say, can you do that? But we also have to think whether we want to set precedent cases like that or not. So a number of different considerations that we need to bear in mind.
That means my new project has potential. Thank you.
Thanks, Prof. Chan. Hey, hi, Ben.
Hi. Yeah, thank you. Always inspiring. One observation, I just wondered, because we noticed when Tenet came, I'm a bit, but maybe you can hold the top. Sorry. Okay, is that better? Okay, thank you. We noticed that when Tenet released the AI detection feature, which has been highly criticized, as with every other one, and as an institution ourselves, we've been recommending not to use that as part of any kind of process other than perhaps flagging. That kind of put a dent in the desire to change assessment. by some colleagues because they're like, oh, phew, we now have a way to check if work is AI generated or not. Therefore, I don't need to redesign my assignment tasks. And at the time, we were kind of struggling how to respond to that because we were making this tool available. We had no choice but to make it available because we subscribed to turn it in. But yet we were saying, don't use it or don't rely on it. And that's been a big kind of challenge for us in our institute.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, yes, you're absolutely right. Those made available to students, the institutions have subscribed to those, right? And we have even told staff which one works better, sort of, right, out of all those. Now, I said just now that we collected assessments from every department. They didn't change every single assessment, right? So actually very recently, just this week, okay, we heard from one engineering department. They came to us and said, oh, we need your help because we have seen all these plagiarized cases. And then we said, okay, show us your assessment. What happened was that teacher did not listen to us and did not change the assessment, okay? And we said, okay, look. So that's why you have now so many cases. So in PolyU, we have what we call a departmental learning and teaching committee chair, and we also have program leaders, right? So those two people have been coming to us and say, what are we going to do with all these grades, okay? All these, 90% similarity kind of thing. So, of course, now we say that, well, you have no choice. You will have to deal with them, right? You will have to meet with your students, and you will need to think about what to do for the next offer. Okay, I guess people will come around. They will learn from their pain. Yes. Okay, and they will come around. I mean, we can't expect everybody to be, moving in the same pace, at the same pace. But I think more and more will be changing. Yeah, and those who have changed will keep changing. That's a good thing we have seen from our teachers as well.
We're kind of forcing it because we're not going to subscribe anymore to that feature.
Yeah, but I think they like to use it, like what you said, to flag things as well. Right? Yeah. And if they really truly do process writing kind of assessment, then that can be a very good flag in the middle of the process. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's online question from the participant. Maybe I will voice for Albert. Thank you, Julia, for sharing those fascinating initial findings from your report. Albert would like to ask about assessment genres, because you have mentioned so many good examples about how students can have authentic assessment with skills and multimodal competence. But how about the foundation of proficiency in some language aspect or some genre-specific awareness, like how to write reports or how to launch executive meetings? How would you support them as well?
Thank you. So, this is a very realistic situation. There are things we still need to teach students. We still want to teach students to learn, even though we know that they can get ChatGPT to do it for them, right? So, do we still want to teach literature review? Yes. Is that an important skill? Yes. Do we want students to learn how to do basic report writing? Yes. Do they need to learn how to write a proposal? Yes. Do they need to learn how to write reflections? Yes. Can ChatGPT do those for them? To a large extent, yes. But that shouldn't stop us from still teaching those and asking students to do those, right? It's just how much on top of that do we now require students to do? Okay, so that is how we're trying to get out of that problem. Okay, so for example, instead of just writing something, they also have to demonstrate something. Okay, instead of just referring to literature, they also have to refer to lessons, as I said just now, right? Instead of just writing, they also have to do a mini viva to demonstrate their understanding. Yeah. So is it more work for staff? Yes. So what can we do? We can follow David's suggestion yesterday, that David has said many times, that Bath University has set a very good model for us, right? Reduce the number of assessments, especially if we go to multi-stage assessments. Okay, do we have any senior staff with us? Please listen, thank you very much. Okay, and declutter the curriculum. Come on, declutter. Especially in the age of Gen AI, there are many things that students can learn outside of class, outside of the real course. Can we shift some of that elsewhere and do it some other time? We need to put our brains together. It's no easy feat, but we can. We have enough brains that we can put together to come up with something that can be good and that can be experimentable, if there is such a word. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julia, for your valuable insights, moderators for your coordination and active participation of our guests.
Okay, coming up next is a forum, the first time ever for CPCECPR conference, in that our facilitators, Dr. Jason Chen, MHJP, and Dr. Maisie Wong will have a conversation with our honorable guest speakers. Maisie, please introduce the facilitators and also the guest speakers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Okay, and we have Dr. Jason Chan here, and he's the facilitator, and he's also our Associate Dean in Information and Development, Director of SPEED, and also Head of IT, PolyU CPCE. And we also have Professor Emil Chen, and he is the co-chair, Hong Kong Digital Finance Association. And we also have Dr. Wendy Lee. She is the General Manager in Chevalier Network Solution Limited. And we also have Mr. Alex Hong, and he is the CEO of Crossover International Company Limited. Okay, so I'll give the floor to Jason to start the conversation. Thank you.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Great. In view of the time, considering the 40 minutes time limit for our discussion, which includes forming questions, I asked each of our guest speakers. I suggest we allocate approximately 10 minutes per questions, and each of you may aim to use around 10 minutes to respond to each question. I will prompt each of you to respond to the questions one by one to ensure a smooth flow and equal participation. Yeah. Let me start. What are the attributes that the employers are looking for in future-ready graduates? And in specific, what are the digital AI and future-proof skills in your field that they should seek for learning more about that? Maybe lady first, may I invite Wendy to sharing with us?
Thank you. Hello, Jason and all. I think the first one I can think of is technological proficiency, because every day we need to use different technologies, apply them to solve real-life problems, and how we learn it, use it, and also apply it ethically is also very important. So I think this is the first one that I can think of.
Okay, how about Emil?
Hello. Hello. Okay. So I think it's the transparency, of the capability of the candidates. So that at the moment, say we have probation. Why? Because I don't know whether this is the kind of skills or personality that I need. So the traditional education system, we grant the right to the universities or the training companies. So I trust that university, and hopefully, that's the kind of candidates, that I'm looking for. But I do believe that in the future, as we are using, different kind of tools where there are footprints, and there are new trust systems, such as a blockchain trust system, then I do believe that in the future, I'm looking for the attribute that can be locked down in such a system. So it depends on different types of work, but regardless of what it is, the more transparency that I can get. I don't really much care about the attribute, but I care about whether it reflects the truth, of what I'm looking for, or the students, the performance of students. Thank you.
Okay, let me see how Alex.
I think the first thing is I'm from a technology company. We look for the students, the graduates with technical competence, which is including data analysis, digital marketing, artificial intelligence, cyber security, and also proficiency in some software okay, tools and also some emerging technologies. Recently, when I asked, the first thing I missed the graduates, I asked them whether they use PoE or not. Oh, if you don't have, okay, that's a problem. But no worries, I will teach you. Okay. Okay. Another thing is the adaptability and also the learning power. Okay, whether they can learn and also critical thinking and problem solving. And it's important because we can't have graduates, they don't have any critical thinking and also problem solving. And also the EI is very important, emotional intelligence, because some graduates, they are not having good control of their emotion. And that's also important, I think, in university or before they work in real workplace. Okay, having a good EI is good, important. And nowadays, okay, we are having more global team. We should have more cultural awareness. Okay, which as in Hong Kong is a little bit weak, which is comparing even in China, in Singapore, in UAE. That's a big problem now. Okay.
Thank you. I think the attributes that both you have shared in different perspectives. But my next question is about what are the possible ways that our students can acquire those attributes that so that they can fit for the future workplace for them. Maybe I also invite Wendy first.
Okay. I always encourage students to join different competitions and mentorship program, because through competitions, they can have a chance to apply what they learned at schools and also get connected with other people, no matter they are from the same faculty or different faculties. Because when we work every day, we always need to work with people from different industries. Actually, you cannot just use what you are comfortable in your domain knowledge, but you need to learn different things. So through joining competitions, besides training our technology skills, we can also improve our communication skills as well, because we also need a lot of communications, and also digital communication skills is important too.
Yeah, I echo what Wendy said. Joining competition. So, but joining competition is one thing that we can through that process to learn a lot. But on the other hand, through this joining competition, particularly I would like the student to join a competition in a group, so that when you are studying, you are quite alone. And then you can achieve higher marks, as long as you study hard alone. The trouble is that, after you graduated, you have to deal with, your colleagues, your boss. And somehow social media is getting more popular. So at school, to me is usually, we are a bit lacking behind, to the actual world requirements. So we are not using much tools. Although we have Moodles, we have, all those online system. As long as, they are not to the level that we are using like Facebook. Facebook is already, I think, 15, 16, it's an old stuff. But through that almost 2 decades, I don't see the way that we are using the online tools at school is up to that level. So in such a case, what we are teaching them at school is not ready for them to do to perform better in the real world. In such a case, to catch it up, I encourage the students and also the professors, to provide more opportunities for the student to get more competitions, to join more competitions. And one more thing is that, particularly in Hong Kong, undergrad student in Hong Kong, we are suffering. As you know, if you are studying abroad or you are a student in other schools, for example, if you are studying in Oxford, your other classmates, they are from all over the world, or at least from Scotland. But in Hong Kong, they are from Wan Chai and Taiwan, and then and you go back home after class rather than you are staying in the dome. So in such a case, your visibility is quite narrow. So as what Alex said, the student here in Hong Kong, they are lacking of understanding, of the culture, for example, from the other part of the world. So I strongly encourage for the local student, particularly, to join international competitions so that they can enlarge, their visibility and the chance to deal with, different types of cultures and make more friends. Thank you.
Alex.
Okay, because of COVID, the last few years, even for me, I spent lots of time in online courses. Actually, I learned what's a pyramid in Egypt. I like the culture there, and I attend the courses there. In fact, there are many MOOCs now, offer in the world, by EDX or in other things, and also other than online courses and tutorials, because joining competitions is good, but it's not all the people that you can join the competition and enjoy that. But I think having the online courses is easier, and also having some internship, is important, and also some networking and industry events. And that's also important. Just like some students, they can join maybe IET, HKIE, or some students' events, industry events, know the people from the industry. And actually, I am also one of the graduates from HKUST. We have some events of HKUST, and I know many graduates, they were very good at in Web3, which is not in the industry in Hong Kong, but they are a group of people they can. But we need to have some industry events, otherwise we can't find them, and also they can't get into the world. Actually, the technical skills of the students now are quite good, because they are open to the world. If they are really well on that, they can learn lots of the things which is not from the books, or from the school. But having more industry events, they can have more, maybe with the events from Science Park and also some from Cyberport as well. Yeah.
Okay, I'll just add on one thing.
Frankly speaking, I'm also use those ways to let me learn more. But in those competitions, my role as a judge. And my next question is, how are we supporting our students better to equip them for the digital or AI-driven workplace? Maybe I would like to know more about your companies or your situations. In your companies or enterprise, what support do you provide for fresh graduate or new employees to help them become more adaptive to the ever-changing digital workplace?
So I
also
talk
maybe
first?
first.
Okay. So we provide internship, and also we support some like public competitions, like business proposal competitions or technology product competitions, to let more students can experience how to use these technologies in designing new products or solving a real life problem. For example, if they think of robots, maybe a robot that used in a hospital will be different from those in hotels. And just for example, so during the preparation time, they can learn what challenges the users may have and why they need a robot. And also, can they design a more comfortable interface or friendly user interface, so that the users, when they say hi to the robot, it will be more like a human, and more practical, more useful to them. So I'm sure when graduates, when they work in the society, they may forget their final year project, but they may remember what they designed in a project or what they did for a competition. No matter they win or lose, it's not the key point. But more importantly is they participate in it, apply the technologies, and also go through the thinking process. Because every day when they work, they need a lot of critical thinking and also learn to celebrate with success, or also face the challenging time and how to improve themselves and have a lifelong learning. That's my experience.
You want to?
I'm not sure whether my mic is working. Hello. So I just want to add on. I just came back from a case competition last week. We brought some PolyU CPC students to Hungary to participate in a case competition, and there were 16 universities, and it was a really good experience for students, and they met a lot of new friends. And University of Melbourne won the competition, but CUHK also did very well in the first two competitions because we have 3 rounds. So we are very glad that we have our students have these kind of opportunities. Yeah.
Well, one more evidence. Computing department of PolyU. So I was one of the judges. So it's the whole Hong Kong, they are for the high school student. And then for the winners, the 3 teams, computing department allowed them to enter the program without passing DSE. So we are changing the rule of game, I think the schools, universities are working hard and to change from the traditional way somehow, if there are levy or some rooms, to play with. I think it is a good sign that what we are proposing is already being, rolled out, in the education industry. So to answer the question. I forgot. What was the question? Come on. So the question is about how what the training of the corporate. So I'm helping startups. So I can't tell for the general industry. I help in startup, but as a corporate trainer, I from time to time provide training to sizable companies, listed companies. So my opinion is that in the past, so I was a banker, so I work hard. So to get the recognition by taking project management or CFA or CPA, that kind of verticals, from junior, from fundamental to, the top level. Unfortunately, my opinion is that, say, a lot of iBanks, they close their branches in Hong Kong. So those poor students, they have no room to play. So my opinion to them, I'm not saying that they have to stop getting that recognition by the industry, but holding one disciplined status is not enough. So through my training, I include soft skill, storytelling, critical thinking, design thinking, all these kind of different sets, to the industry. And also, I would rather like to deliver the program so that for lawyers, I would teach them how to use PoE, okay? Or for those technical people, I would teach them, about the policies, the legal requirement, or the regarding to cybersecurity, as what you said, the personal data privacy ordinance. If they don't understand that, they will create a lot of problems for the companies. So cross-disciplinary training, I do believe that is the trend. And for the company, we would love to get more students, more workforces, with they are multi-talents, then I think that's the trend.
Okay, in the last 22 years, I have my own company, and in fact, from time to time, okay, we have graduates to join my company. Okay, I will ask them to teach me something new. Okay, for example, maybe 10 years before is about the social media, okay, and also the mobile apps development. Okay, and also something like AI, some practical usage, okay, which they learn in the university, and of course for the ChatGPT, okay, actually they know more than me, okay, and also in the 2 years before is about metaverse, okay, and not only those terms, okay, I try to have some crypto, and then I give the crypto for them to play the game. I have no time to play the game, okay? They can play the game and then try to know about that and then let me know. And also not only me, okay, and also some elder staff in my companies, okay? Maybe they don't know how to use AI, Adobe Illustrator as the young generation, okay? They will teach them. By teaching them, okay, because maybe they don't know how to use it, they will try to learn it, and then challenge to know and learn, and that's what I did in the last 22 years. In fact, I learn every day. Okay, there's something new, and then I try to apply in the projects. Okay,
so that's why we are speed, continuity study.
Yeah.
Right, Jason?
Okay. I agree to what you have shared. And my last question is actually most of our audience in this conference are higher education educators. What advice will you give us as higher education educators in relation to nurturing future-ready graduates? What is our advice to us?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we also need to learn every day and also be willing to share our experience and our knowledge to the students. Because, for example, I sometimes will share with my colleagues or my mentees that every weekend I still learn something new. Try to make myself to learn something new because the industry is changing and challenges that we need to face are different every day. So they need to be prepared to face this world. And at school, we can encourage them to learn more tools. For example, not just those subjects that will have scores, but also learn some other tools like if I'm an engineering student, I may also learn some drawing tools, or right now there are different AI tools that help you to be more creatively and also other design things. Right now, even a music video can get support from AI tools. So that doesn't mean to stop them from creating new designs, but let them to have more inspirations. For example, if they see 100 images, they may think of other creative images from this. So try to encourage them to think out of the box and get new inspirations every day, and also learn the new ways to get inspirations. Thank you.
Beautiful. That's exactly what I'm doing. Don't you know what I'm teaching? I was a programmer. I work for banks. So to teach fintech is quite straightforward, right? But there were no fintech. But I was a pioneer of that course in the other university. But don't you know how my subject I was teaching lately? From cybersecurity, okay, to lately journalism. So I was a programmer, and I also was a professional photographer. So as what Wendy said, so not only trying to go for that direction, so I proved that can happen So I retired, and then I tried the best and challenged the system. So I teach DBA without doctorate degree, something like that. So I was a programmer without a bachelor degree. So if that happened, so you got to challenge the system. So I'm not a permanent staff, as a part-time staff. I can share the industry experience, and I can be share something, which the usual syllabus, are not covered. So in such a case, we always said, as a leader, you are not going to manage, your staff. You have to do it, and so that people can follow. So if you can challenge the system successfully, and if you can do that job, nicely, then the system will change. So in the fintech terms, one of the fintech terms called sandbox. So what's a sandbox? Say in the playground, that sandbox is for the kids to play in a safe, under control manner. So in Hong Kong, unfortunately, in my eyes, the sandbox are the place for the grandma and grandpa to play. So sandbox supposedly is for the startups, for the new players, new industry, new products, to test whether it is, good or bad, whether it will explore so that it will harm the traditional system. But in Hong Kong, they use the same term nicely, for their own advantage. Then the big banks, the traditional financial companies, they are using the sandbox to try the new products. In such a case, the smaller companies, the startups, they are suffering. So for higher education, leaders, I'm here, to try to voice out, to advocate that I think our system at the moment, although, it is quite good, we have a lot of new students from mainland China or so on. But if the systems are not being challenged, I think, the situation might change in a few years' time. Then if we still keep in our old system, we might face a big problem. So cross-disciplinary, try to challenge the system, and also we have to sit down to think about, for the future, of Hong Kong education system. So that's all too long, maybe.
I think I'm also I was the programmer after my Hong Kong U computer science degree, and actually I was the advisor for some programs since 2002 or something like that, for VTC and also some universities in Hong Kong. I think the one thing for the school is about the updated curriculum. The curriculum nowadays is very, very conservative. Yeah, very conservative. Actually, in the last 2 years, I also developed some programs in fintech for Hong Kong youth space. And I think because we are having new things every day, but the curriculum is not so updated. And also maybe we should have some specialized programs. Even because I know some of you are not from the technology school, maybe some from language and also some other schools, but having some elements of data science, artificial intelligence, and robots is important. Actually, I also always give talks to some secondary school students, and it's good for them to learn something about these new things, because in future, even they are medical doctors, lawyers, if they have that idea and some skills, they can apply it. Or even they have a startup in future, they can use it. Otherwise, they can't use it. They will not having these concepts. And also that's why, because now I also teach in the DI, for the fashion student about e-commerce, and Actually, I let them to have more technology way of thinking, okay, about the 3D way to design or something like that, which is not something new, but in the industry. But in the school, they are not using that. Very surprised, okay? And also, I think for your school, you can have more career service, okay, and guidance. In fact, in Hong Kong, now the unemployment rate is too low. Too low. I think it's too low. That means all the graduates, they can get a job. But I think it's not healthy. At my time, when I graduated, in 1994, okay, it's a year not good, not so good because before 1997, and also some political reasons, and Hong Kong economy is not so good. We need to try very hard to find a job, to start and then work. But now the graduates, very easy, they can find whatever job, okay. But it's not healthy, in fact. Yes, so that's the problem.
No competition.
So I think more career service, and also they have more to have more supports, okay, and also even in China, okay, because in China it's different from Hong Kong. The unemployment rate is very, very high, okay. Do you know how many university graduates in China every year? Okay. Think about that figure, okay? In Hong Kong, we have 7 to 8 million people. Every year, more than 10 million university graduates in whole China. You will think about the unemployment rate is so high, okay, comparing to that. But in future, okay, I think because Hong Kong economy is, okay, the truth is dropping, okay? And good thing is unemployment rate will be higher. So they should think about how to start up some companies and have their own ideas. In fact, in Hong Kong, they are quite safe. They can try to start something. Okay, after a few years, they can still get a job. Okay, that's different from other countries. So, but they need to have that kind of idea. So your schools can suggest, okay, you can try 2 or 3 years, not necessary to get the first job, although it's easy. Okay. But you will change your whole life because you just stick into some jobs which is so trivial, something like that. Okay.
Thank you. I've just got questions from online participant. He's asking, when we assess our students, it is easier for hard skills, but not easy for soft skills. He feels that those who are strong in soft skills are more successful in the long run. From your perspective, how do you balance soft and hard skills when you hire new graduates? No need to answer the question one by one. Email first.
For soft skill and hard skill,
2 minutes.
Yeah, well, very short. To practice soft skill is very difficult. Okay, hard skill, you can practice alone. So practicing soft skill is somewhat like practicing how to swim. Okay, if you just read the book and try out by yourself, you will die easily. Okay, but practicing soft skill, I don't think it's that easy. In classroom. So that's why we need challenging. So to answer the question precisely, we are not saying that soft skill is more important than hard skill. We're only saying that that's very hard to teach, very hard to practice. So that if it is hard, I think the student themselves, have to find a way to catch it up by training or increasing their soft skill. That's it.
Okay, at the point, every one of us have 24 hours a day. How we use the time, how to improve ourselves will be decided by yourself. And even though we may not strong in one skill, but if you have a plan, execute, I'm sure we can improve some a little bit at least. And also sometimes when I assign some projects, I may also encourage those, for example, people more silently, ask them to present on stage. everyone can be given an opportunity to be on stage and on the spot, and sometimes through practices, they can improve a lot.
Hard skills are more important. Okay, soft skill can be trained. But okay, actually I have experience to have some programmers. Okay, every day I deal with some programmers. In fact, up to now, okay, many programmers, very good programmers, they don't like to speak. But okay, how to solve this problem? Okay, I use WhatsApp to talk to them, even in office. It works. Yeah, but I think for the employer point of view, hard skill is more important. Okay, we don't need to have all the people for the sales role.
You are a SI, of course. If I'm a marketing company, if I only hire a programmer. But I think with the help of generative AI, the situation, will be changed. Okay, can your programmer write better now? Yeah, I do think so.
They need not write anything.
They do not write
the staff to have a white.
Anyway,
they just need to write the programs.
Yeah, it depends. It depends which industry.
Yeah, it depends actually. In view of the time, I need to say thank you to three of you, Alex, Emil, and Wendy. All
Thank you.
are my good friends. And I know Wendy is required to run for another occasion in our campus. I need to finish this session now. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chen, Dr. Wong, Professor Chen, Dr. Lee, and Mr. Hong for your insightful talk. So could Professor Chen, Dr. Lee, and Mr. Hong, you may return to your seats. And may I ask Maisie, would you please remain on the stage? I understand that you are head of CESO. And would you like to say a few words about CESO's work and your recent events? Maisie, please.
Okay, I'll be quick. So I'll keep my time. So good morning, Macy, and I'm representing CISO, which is standing for CPC and Property Services Office. So this is a dedicated office focusing on promoting and enhancing career readiness of our graduating students. So I'll just say a few words about why I'm here and why we set up this office since 2021. Let me just begin with some statistics, talk about the current employment landscape in Hong Kong. And in fact, in March last month, the Labour Department actually hosted a job fair in Hong Kong and in showcasing 4,000 job vacancy. So I think that's echo Professor mentions that a lot of graduates are able to find a job. But are they competitive enough in the global market? We are having some question mark here. So of course, there are ample opportunities for our fresh grad now. But of course, it's not just in Hong Kong, but there are also demand from Greater Bay Area. And also, as I've mentioned, there are challenges for our graduates. They are not just facing local competition, but also world competition nowadays, especially mainland. Also, there are a lot of mainland graduates also looking for jobs in Hong Kong now. So we are actually setting up to groom student and property skills and career readiness in the face of challenges and opportunities. And looking at some data, talk about, of course, why we have to groom students and property skills. There are a lot of research actually saying that, especially from the employer's point of view, saying that some graduates are lacking some of the property skills like up-to-date market understanding, problem-solving skills, work-related technical knowledge, self-learning ability. So those are the top, skill deficiencies. And so we are here to help equip our students with these critical skills so that they are able to, be competitive in the job market. So we, as I've mentioned, just giving you some background, we actually set up as a dedicated office focusing on property services in 2021 in September. And our mission is threefold. One is to supporting graduating students in seeking gainful employment. So that is our main aim. Second, of course, is to link up with domestic and also global businesses to forge partnership with the school. So we have a lot of partnership with a lot of industries and also employers in Hong Kong, so that they are able to provide us with more internship, placements, and mentorship opportunities. And also promoting and offering the latest experiential learning opportunities to students. I think we in the previous section, we already mentioned that international case competitions are good for students, as well as a lot of workshops and also events. So I will give you some examples of some of the events that we host every year. Regarding how we groom our students in PolyU CPCE, we have 3 pillars, and we call this EEI. So of course, the core focus is employability. So we are very much centered on this, trying to groom our students, but as well as we also focus on entrepreneurship and innovation nowadays. And entrepreneurship is one of our focus or pillar, is because traditional employment is not the only path nowadays. So we try to give more options for our students to give them some knowledge in setting up their businesses, or at least to play around with their business ideas. And also innovation, of course, is our latest trend, or we have to equip our students with. And we have been talking about a lot in this forum, talk about AI. Of course, we have other latest technology like machine learning, cloud computing, virtual reality. So just to name a few, but we try to at least give some knowledge to our students that they have to be aware of these kind of latest technologies and how they are going to be impacted by these technologies. And so apart from talk about employability, we've mentioned that we're focusing on entrepreneurship and innovation. And in fact, this is also aligned with the Hong Kong government, focusing on fostering innovation and technological advancement. So you can see the news, the government also plays a more role on fostering innovation and technology talent. So we are also aligning with the government focus or strategic direction there. And in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation, we've mentioned that for entrepreneurship, especially talk about students are not just having this kind of career path, but they can actually set up their own businesses. So we try to empower students with the mindset and tools necessary to launch and manage businesses, not just in Hong Kong, but hopefully globally. And we actually set up an IG lab 2 years ago. And so it is a physical space that we provide students that they are able to gather together and talk about their business ideas. And we provide a lot of entrepreneurship workshops for them, to guide them through the process of setting up businesses. And also in terms of innovation, of course, as we've mentioned, we help students to prepare them with more novel ideas to the workplace, and also to drive progress within the respective industry. And we also set up a meta lab, or is a virtual lab that students will have different resources online, so that they can know more about different new technologies that is going on in different industries. So basically, we're focusing on 3 pillars, as I've mentioned, and we try to strategically position to help prepare students with a holistic set of skills and competences. And hopefully, we are able, to groom desired talents for today's job market. So that is our 3 pillars of focus in CISO. And just to give you some examples of how we groom our desired talents that we've mentioned, in fact, we host a lot of different workshops. And one of the major workshops that we host will be MBTI. These, I think you have heard about these kind of personality tests. So these tools are helping students to better understand themselves, to understand their, their strengths, their preferences, and also their potential career path. So we often have these kind of MBTI workshops, this workshop, and we have professional, trainers coming to, to work with students, talking about their personalities.
And regarding skills-based workshops that we offer to students, mainly we have three major key areas that offering skills-based workshops in terms of information and communication technology, which is the IT area. And this is of particular focus because employers' feedback are saying that students should have more skills in IT. Especially like Excel, digital marketing, those kind of skills. So we are hosting a lot of skill-based workshops, and also we've mentioned about soft skills. Okay, hard skills are important, soft skills are also important. So we try to brush up our students in terms of their soft skills as well. I think that is the skill sets that we need to survive in organization, I guess. Okay, and to climb up the career ladder. Okay, so I think it is also important. And also, the third set of skills that we offer is vocational skills. Okay, and we try to help our students to brush up their portfolio and to sell themselves well in the job market. I think that is why we offer vocational skills. Apart from entrepreneurship and innovation, we often host different workshops, and last year, we host various types of workshops, and so to give some ideas to students how to craft business strategies, how to grow their businesses with new technologies. So of course we have some trendy topics depending on different industry practitioners, what kind of new topics they have. So that is just try to provide students with real-world knowledge and the skills that they need. So basically, the takeaway from offering different types of workshops and seminars, of course, is to groom the many skills that our graduates need or our graduating students need before their graduation. So that is why we try to come up with all these kind of workshops. And other than that, of course, we host a lot of major events. Of course, we try to bridge the gap between students and the professional world. So we host a lot of events like annual employability forum, and each forum annually we have different theme. Okay, so last year we had green innovation and green employment. I think that is a hot topic, especially ESG is now a hot topic nowadays. And we the year before we also had future of work, so that also tie into consider technologies and how it impacts on work. And also we have a lot of connections with different industries, different companies, and we also have a long-term collaboration with Sun Hung Gate Property Hotels, and we host open day last year. And so this Sun Hung Gate group, of course, they provide us with more than 100 internship places for all the CPCE students. So of course, we try to facilitate direct connections with different industries and employers in Hong Kong so that it provide more industry exposure, networking opportunities for our students. And also, for entrepreneurship, we also host annual entrepreneurship competition, and we will have our CPCECPR Venture Fund next week, next Tuesday. So that is an annual competition, and it fosters students' entrepreneurship skills as well as promoting interdisciplinary collaboration. Why am I saying that there's interdisciplinary collaboration? Is because we actually bring together design and also business students together, and they come up with different business ideas, and they will pitch their ideas to solve different social problems in Hong Kong. It is a social entrepreneurship competition this year, and so this is to prepare students for the challenges of entrepreneurship, but also combining diverse skills from and knowledge from different students, and they are very happy to have these kind of opportunities. And so to give away, talk about the major events, of course, again, we are trying to improve the skills of our students. Mainly for events, we try to enhance the student skill in terms of networking. Networking skills are very important, and gaining insights to better understand industry trends and also job market demands are why we are hosting a lot of different events for our students. And hopefully that will open the door to a lot of internship, mentorship, employment opportunity for our students. And lastly, I also want to talk about highlights about the experiential learning part. I think this is a vital important or component in university education nowadays. And so trying to bridge the gap between theoretical knowledge and professional practice. So when I talk about CISO and probability services, we often say we are here to provide experiential learning opportunity for our students. And so we actively support our students through various placement and sponsorship programs. And of course, apart from the traditional kind of internship programs that we offer in the winter and summer, we are also, in the future, this year, we will be offering Greater Bay Area internship program, so to give more exposure to students. And also for experiential learning, we are also hosting EEI tours. And last year, we went to Japan, South Korea, Taiwan. There are different places. This year, we will be again focusing on Greater Bay Area. Okay, so because that is, again, aligning with the government's strategic direction, and also because we obtained our funding from the government. And so with that support, of course, we also have to offer opportunities for our students in these areas. So the takeaway for experiential learning, of course, we say that these are just some few examples, okay, just want to talk about. So basically, we try to, providing students with various types of experiential learning so that they are able to, exchange knowledge and increasing their cultural sensitivity. I think we also mentioned that students have to have more overseas industry exposures to help them with their career. And lastly, to wrap up, CISO is committed to transforming challenges into stepping stones for our students, preparing them not just for employment, but also for gaining a dynamic and fulfilling career. And hopefully, we are helping to build future-ready workforce, which is aligning with the theme of this conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maisie. Now we have a 20 minutes break, and there are refreshments outside that you can enjoy, and also feel free to mingle with our guests and have great conversation outside the lecture hall. Meanwhile, there are also carefully designed posters, presentations at the lift lobby, which is right next to your refreshments. So please take a few moments to read the posters designed by our CPC students and research personnel. You can ask them questions, leave comments, and also you can scan the QR codes on the posters to leave your comments if the presenters are not there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. Coming up is our keynote session under the sub-theme Digital Literacy for Teacher Professional Development, followed by 2 plenary speeches. Dear moderators, you're invited to take over and introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Sean McMinn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you. So good morning, everyone. We are 2 moderators here. Edmund and myself, Anand, will be moderating the session. So our first keynote speaker is Dr. Sean McMinn. He's the Director of Center for Education Innovation at the University of Science and Technology. He has over 20 years of experience in higher education. He has interests in artificial intelligence and education, digital literacies, and networked learning, and has published several publications. And he has presented at the international conferences on these subjects. He will be talking on instructors' AI readiness and making informed decisions for strategizing education, teaching, and learning. So let's welcome Dr. Sean McMinn. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation. I heard yesterday was quite successful, and it's a privilege to be here among everyone and to talk about some of these very important topics. My talk is going to take a practitioner's point of view, although it is rooted in literature and research, but one of my main roles at the university is really to apply a lot of the research that people are doing, the good work that people are doing, and to see how we can make it useful for practitioners. I'm going to begin by talking about the elephant in the room, but it's not what you think. I think we all know what the elephant is in AI, and it's not really an elephant in the room anymore. Everyone is talking about it. And yeah, so I want to talk about it as an elephant in the room in a different perspective. And that's referring it to the idea of that old story where you have 4 or 5 blind men touching different parts of the elephant and saying, it's one thing, and another blind man saying, no, it's this. And I suspect this is what we're doing with artificial intelligence at the moment. When we're looking at education, and when I hear a lot of talks, or I look at some of the commentary in social media or even mainstream media, a lot of people are fixated on different aspects of AI. And we're not really looking at it holistically to really identify it for what it is, right? The elephant in the room. Some are focusing on the trunk, some are focusing on the ears, and so on. Right? So this is really the framing of my talk right now, why we need to look at it more holistically, particularly if we are to be AI ready in education. There are a lot of guides out there, and I know some of the speakers have alluded to them, and some of them are very good, but some are a little outdated. They become outdated as soon as they hit the press, and this is one of the problems, right? The technology is changing rapidly, and sometimes the guidelines are focusing on the tools and not so much on the principles. So it becomes problematic in that sense. Some of the guidelines, sometimes there is a lot of lack of evidence to support the claims and the impact that generative AI is having on learning and teaching. That's not too surprising. It's moving rapidly. It has an impact. We all know it's having an impact. And research moves slowly for good reasons. But practitioners need to move quickly for equally good reasons. Right? So a lot of the ideas that are coming out sometimes are speculative, right? And we have to be mindful and aware of that. Something I'll come back a little bit later, and something that I'm going to argue that is missing in some of these guidelines, is we're not talking enough about a key element, and that is metacognitive awareness. It's not so much my idea. Others have been really talking about this. Professor Rose Luckin, some of you are probably familiar of her work. She's talked significantly about this and the importance of metacognitive awareness when we're interacting with smart machines. And I'll come back to that a little later. And one final point I want to make is when we're talking about AI, it's more than generative AI, right? Although it is a large chunk of what we should be talking about because it is impacting everything from ethics to academic integrity to assessment design and so on. But AI has been around, and different types of AI have been around for decades, right? And there are other types that we should be also considering when we're talking about AI readiness. So what is AI's role in education? Right? A lot, right? AI's impact on curriculum design, for example, and we heard a couple of people talk about that today, assessment and feedback, student support. These are just 3 things. Obviously, there's a lot more. Right? It's impacting education in multiple ways. The Digital Education Council, it's a recently formed council of a number of universities worldwide, has formed to look at different aspects and the impact of technology, future of work, and various aspects that are needed for us to consider because higher education needs to shift its focus in some ways to help prepare students for the future of work. And they recently published some briefings to the universities, to the council, that cover different perceived opportunities of AI. And this is just a snapshot of their report to show that it's quite big. There's a lot of things that are going to impact, a lot of opportunities of AI, ranging from teaching and learning, and that can be broken down to things like curriculum development, instructional design, student engagement, collaboration, personalized learning, but also student support. How can AI help support through personalized tutoring, personalized counseling, right? For example, at UST, I know our academic registry office has been exploring the use of AI to provide student support in areas related to academic registry, right, and curriculum. Skills and jobs, we heard a little bit about that today. New business products and administrative. Not a lot of people are talking about the impact of AI on non-academic units in universities. Right? This is another area. So this is something that we need to consider as well. Right? So this is a collection of university opinions of their perceived opportunities, the impact, the urgency, and the risk tolerance for these different areas. They also identified the potential negative impact, the implications on operations, the organizational structure, and also the external environment and the impact on that. And you can see, relevant to my talk, what I'll talk about in a moment, is users training, getting faculty and staff training on AI tools is considered a challenge and a concern with AI. Are we there yet? Right. There is resistance to change. Staff and faculty might be skeptical or reluctant to the use, and this could be for various reasons. Again, breaking down and looking at AI more holistically, we can look at an overview of higher education and the different areas and what kind of AI use cases might be useful within higher education and the impact that they'll have. So for example, from learning support to learning management, assessment and analytics, down to career and skills development. AI use cases can range from it being used as a writing assistant, to video generation, to a career coach, right? So my main argument here in showing these slides is, are we talking enough to raise awareness within faculty members so that they see this holistically and understand AI's impact holistically that it could have? Can we drive efficiency within the university? Can we boost engagement, student-to-student engagement, student-to-content engagement, student-to-teacher engagement? Can we help provide insights, use AI to provide insights, both for students and faculty members? Right? How can we augment learning? How can we boost engagement? Again, is what I was saying there, provide insights and in different areas. So a lot of this has implications for instructors and institutions. Right? There's a need for instructors to incorporate AI in their teaching practice, and I have in brackets there, when appropriate, because I think we need to always remind us to avoid the novelty factor, the FOMO factor, the fear of missing out factor, whatever you want to call it. Right? Because like any technology, like any pedagogical approach, we need to adopt it and use it appropriately. Right? And then how can institutions support instructors in AI integration? I think in Hong Kong, a lot of the higher education institutions are doing a good job in this area. Right? But we should always be critical of, well, are we doing enough? What are the gaps? What can we do? So why is an instructor AI's readiness important in that sense? Multiple reasons. I'm just listing out a few here, right? It can impact their pedagogical approach. They need to consider, are they using it ethically? Right? Are they able to monitor the misuse of AI? Right? Right? There's some talk about cognitive offloading. So a lot of faculty members will say, well, students are just going to use it and they're not going to develop critical thinking because they're offloading all their cognitive thinking into the machine. That might be a black and white perspective in the sense that, well, sometimes if the teacher knows how AI works, if they understand large language models, if they have an understanding of prompt engineering, although that might change as the models change themselves, but they understand the differences between prompts that are step-by-step, few-shot, chain of thought, these type of prompt engineering techniques, and why students can use them, can they mitigate the misuse of AI and then revert it back so that students are using it in a very useful way, right? So in that sense, critical thinking then, AI, can it augment critical thinking, can facilitate critical thinking as opposed to being detrimental to it? And then what about adaptability to change, faculty members, right, when they're teaching instructors? Right? Unfortunately, we're at a time where we need that skill. We talk about our students and future ready at work, but what about the future readiness of teaching, right? The future of teaching. Are we adaptable? Right? I haven't slept since ChatGPT was released in 2022. Right? I have to be adaptable all the time because it's changing. Right? And we need to equip our faculty members in that sense. Cognitive development. What is the impact of using these tools on students' cognitive development? Right? An area that I'm starting to become increasingly interested in is self-regulated learning and the impact of using ChatGPT, for example, on students' self-regulated learning strategies. Right? If they're using it as a tool to solve a problem, are they metacognitively aware of how it's having an impact on the strategies? Right? And then metacognitive skills again. Right? So these are different areas. So I did a little experiment. By the way, I'll admit this slide is generated with the assistance of AI. Right? I need to practice what I preach in the sense. When you are using the tools and you have your own domain knowledge going in, right, and you understand how the language models work, you can produce something that is quite useful. So what I did is I said, well, here's all the information I want to talk about. Here's some aspects of teaching and learning that I think are important. This is what I think AI readiness for instructor looks like. And then I asked it step by step, what would an unready, well, it used this word, unready instructor, AI unready. I don't know if I would have used that term myself, but I left it in there anyway. Right? What would it look like? So it put this table together for me, which I thought was, okay, I tweaked it a little bit, but it helped me brainstorm for ideas. Pedagogical approach, it's not holistic, but it's a good starting point. An AI-ready instructor leverages AI for personalized adaptive learning experiences, models and integrates digital literacy into the curriculum. I think that is increasingly becoming important, right? Digital literacy. It's not just understanding how the technology works, but it's how we interact, our practices with the technology, how we communicate through digital literacy, right? Because as Julie was mentioning about multimodality, multimodal communication is very different than one single mode. Right? Because multimodal communication, meaning making, is very, very different, right? The images influence the words influence the voice, and so on, right? So are we equipping students with these kind of skills when we bring in smart machines? I'm not going to go through all this long list with you because I want to really focus on my other points. But it was interesting what AI came up with what an AI unready instructor will look like. An AI unready instructor will stick to one-size-fits-all teaching. Now, I don't want to run into the danger of saying faculty members do that, right? I don't want to generalize, but there are cases where faculty members will use one-size-fits-all approach to teaching, right? And that just will not work in an AI world, right? A couple of points that I thought was interesting. Resistance or slow to adapt to new AI technologies, allows AI to become a crutch impeding cognitive development. Right? And I'll show some real case scenarios in a moment relevant to this, but a recent conversation I had with a faculty member was they were very reluctant to allow the use of AI in the classrooms because they think it will impede students' critical thinking. And they're allowing it to become a crutch in the students' cognitive development because they're not allowing students how to think and use it in a critical way. Okay? Students will use it, regardless of whether you allow it in the class or not. They might not use it for your course, but they'll use it for other situations. Right? So it's our role, I feel, as instructors, that we need to help them so that they are using it effectively and it is not impeding cognitive development. The other point that the AI didn't mention, and it was raised a little bit today in the previous talks, is AI detection tools and academic integrity. Right? If you understand how large language models work, you'll understand that these tools just don't work. But up to last week, I still received questions from faculty members saying, why are you guys not paying for the AI detection tool and turn it in? We want to be able to capture whether or not students are using AI in their class. And I said, well, what's your assessment? It's an essay. I said, you're in trouble. Right? There are multiple reasons why it doesn't work. But in brief, too many false negatives and too many false positives. Both are very problematic. In particular, I'm more concerned about the false positives. If you're going to accuse students for using it, false positives for non-native speakers, by the way, which are the majority of our students. Right? If you're going to approach it with this policing mentality in mind, it creates a distrust with the students. Right? So this is an issue. All right, let me get down to some actual case studies then. That was just really to frame some of the ideas. I've been working with the Association of Pacific Rim Universities. This is really their initiative, right? But also internally at our university, we've been doing something similar. We've been collecting case studies of faculty members using AI for different reasons and exploring how they're using them to inform good practices and to help us formulate guidelines for faculty members so that they are AI ready. Both initiatives, we've been asking very simple questions of the faculty members. Why? What is the problem the project addresses? What are you trying to address with the use of AI in your course? To give you a little bit of background from our perspective, and I think other universities are doing similar things, is we offer funding schemes for faculty members to experiment with AI, either in their assessment or in their pedagogical practice, or to develop a chatbot, different things, right? To address some sort of a problem, and then we evaluate the project, we give feedback. At UST, we recently had a round table where we invited about 13 of our project PIs to share their experiences based off of the results of these questions so that they can learn from each other. And their disciplines range from business to computer engineering to math to physics, right? And language education as well. So we asked them, what is the problem that you were trying to address? What was done in your project? How was generative AI used? What challenges have you encountered in this work? And then what is the impact? How, basically? How is this creating impact? What effects are you seeing? And are there unintended effects you are observing? Right? So very simple. After we collected this information and after the round table, we asked them additional questions. We used Miro board to collect this information. We had different discussion points to follow up on those main points. And then we started to kind of do an analysis of the outcomes. Now, this isn't really rigorous research. Again, this is more from a practical practitioner's point of view, but I think it's still useful. What we found out of the result of the faculty members using AI in their courses for different reasons is we found that 10 themes emerged. The first theme that emerged out of this was efficiency in brainstorming and drafting. Faculty members in their discussions and in the reporting and the templates that we sent them to gather information, they seem to all agree that AI accelerates text-based tasks like brainstorming and drafting, inspiring ideas while still requiring human input. And I'll come back to the requiring human input later, right? But I think this is very informative and very useful for us as practitioners, and especially when we're designing assessments or even formative assessments in class. How can we utilize the tool for brainstorming and drafting, right? Design thinking. I actually think AI is a great tool for design thinking approach to teaching and learning, right? Particularly for the efficacy stage or empathy stage, sorry, and then the brainstorming stage, and perhaps even the testing stage of design thinking. Another theme that emerged, unsurprisingly, was critical thinking and creativity. Right? Faculty members are concerned about the reliance on AI and how it might diminish students' critical thinking and creative thinking. I've already talked a little bit about this, and I'm not too surprised that this came out of these case studies. Right? Context is important of perceived usefulness. Right? Any AI integration should be designed with an authentic learning purpose. Without this, students may not see the value of using AI or may feel that they could perform the task better without it. Right? Students are intelligent. If they don't see a practical use for a tool, they won't use it. Okay. So this is, again, these are perceived outcomes out of their cases that we're looking at, right? Whether or not this is actually what students are thinking, that's another study, right? But I think it's an important reminder that if we're going to incorporate AI into our classes, into our teaching and learning, it needs to be appropriate and it needs to be contextual, right, to the task. Flexibility can empower students. So some of the faculty members mentioned that they found that either doing a across-the-board no AI or across-the-board you must use AI were both problematic, and they found it more useful to be flexible in the classroom. You can use it if you want, and here's how, but if you don't want to use it, that's okay too. Right? And I think this might be a good message because, again, this reminds us that, well, what is the purpose of our course? What is the purpose of teaching and learning? Well, it's usually to help students reach some sort of intended learning outcome. And if we focus too much on the AI tool, we're focusing on the tool and not so much on the ILOs of the course. Okay? Feedback preference. Very interesting study of one of the groups. They're actually looking at AI being used as a feedback tool, so grading students' work. What are students' perceptions of that? And they're doing some sort of research where they have AI mark an assignment and give feedback. They have AI mark an assignment, the teacher gives feedback. They have the teacher mark an assignment, the AI gives feedback, and then the teacher marks an assignment and gives feedback. And then they interview the students for their perceptions of whether or not which they prefer. Right? And what they found is, overwhelmingly, according to their study, is that students really prefer when a human is in the loop. They're fine if it gives marks, but they want to make sure that the human is there to give them feedback because they found that it creates trust. Even if the AI is more accurate, they want the human empathy. And that creates more trust. Right? So that's something to be aware of when we're working with AI and we're giving feedback. Learning curve, coming back to adaptability. Early use of AI might feel less efficient due to a learning curve, and instructors might prepare students and themselves for this transition. Right? All right, we're all learning with this case. Student familiarity and engagement. Students are unfamiliar with advanced AI functionalities and are unlikely to experience lower than expected outcomes. My own experience in working in the classroom, I teach an AI literacy course with a colleague, is that the students come to the course really not understanding how the technology works. And if you ask them, do you use it? They say, no, it's useless because, and they give different reasons. Usually it's because they use it like it's a Google search engine, which would give them strange results, or they just see the hallucinations and they think that's useless, right? Emotional expression. AI's poor handling emotional nuances can lead to negative student perceptions as well, right? But I suspect as the technologies adapt and platforms and uses improve, this might be less of an issue. And again, it comes down to how it's being used. So out of these emerging themes, we can kind of categorize them into different areas. Adaptation and learning, right? So faculty members, are they adaptive? Are they able to learn the impact of AI in their teaching and learning? Are they aware of the contextual and purposeful, still early in the morning for me, sorry, use of AI, right? And then student autonomy and motivation, right? Are we as faculty members understanding and empowering students in their use for appropriate use? And is it motivating them? Is it demotivating them? And for what reasons? Is it because of their misuse and the misunderstanding? Or is it because of our restrictions that we've placed in the course? Right? Multiple reasons. So if we think about this, we can think about strategic, I don't have too many text-heavy slides, but there'll be a couple here now. We can think about strategic integration of AI tools. So building on this idea of adaptation and learning and contextual and purposeful use, it is recommended to adopt a strategic approach to integrating AI into educational. We need to be more strategic than we are, I think, right? This involves not only just selecting AI tools and deploying them, but also having a comprehensive understanding, a holistic understanding of the impact and their uses. So we can also think about, well, how can we empower students through the flexible use of AI? Right? By allowing students the choice to engage with AI tools, educators can encourage more innovative and self-directed uses of the technology. I really worry about sometimes being too prescriptive when we're working out. I mean, it's our knee-jerk reaction when new technologies and new things appear. Right? We want to be controlling because humans are not good with chaos. Right? We're just not built that way sometimes. Right? So flexibility, we need to be comfortable with flexibility. This one, I think, is quite important, and this is balancing AI with human interaction. In our course that we teach at UST, we begin for the first 3 weeks by talking about cognitive thinking, metacognitive awareness. We talk about learning theories with students. What does it mean to perceive the world? What are the human biases when we understand the world around us, right? Then we go into machine learning. How do machines learn? How do machines perceive the world? What are the biases involved in that? Then by week 6 or 7, we start talking about, well, what happens when the two collaborate, right? When we have a hybrid situation, right? And then what happens at the group level, at the organizational level, right? The whole time we keep reminding students that they need to have the human in the loop. Right? The humans are important. We need to be the final decision makers. So what does this all mean for AI readiness? I think 2 obvious things. We need faculty members to have some technological competence. Right? If you're familiar with other frameworks like technological, pedagogical content knowledge, we've talked about, a lot of scholars have talked about this, all right? What are faculty members' understanding competencies in using technologies? And then also pedagogical competence. What are faculty members' understanding of different pedagogical approaches to teaching and learning? Design-based thinking, collaborative learning, project-based learning, active learning. I mean, there's a variety of things. But I'll add in now too, and I think this needs to be explored, right? This is just the hypothesis, right? But I think we need to include now metacognitive awareness. What are faculty members' metacognitive awareness when they're using these tools? Right? We talk about students, but what about faculty members? So why am I suggesting metacognitive awareness is an important point? Research is coming out, sorry, the formatting's a little off, but research is coming out that knowing how to work with increasingly capable machines requires having a deep understanding of our own capabilities and limitations. This is a paper by Jason Lodge and colleagues, and if I recommend looking up his work. He's done a little bit of work in this area, and it's very, very interesting and very useful. But it's coming out in other areas. Should we let AI take over mundane work? Not so fast, right? People are starting to find that if I'm not being critical of my use, yeah, mistakes are getting through, right? And usually this is because I'm not metacognitively aware of what I'm doing. I'm not critically evaluating my approach to solving a problem and the use of that tool. Okay? Other earlier research shows that using these tools has what they call latent persuasion. We don't realize it, but ChatGPT is persuading us in certain directions. Right? If I'm more metacognitively aware as I'm using the tool, I might mitigate some of this latent persuasion. Right? Other research that's come out, if you're familiar with Ethan Mollick and his work, navigating the jagged technology frontier, right? It is having an impact on productivity and quality. And those who are more cognitively aware of how they're using it, tend to be more productive. Right? Impact of AI assistance on student agency. George Siemens and colleagues, they're doing a lot of work in this area. There is a rising awareness of the hazards of outsourcing self-regulated learning to technology, which may impede students' cognitive and metacognitive growth. So we need to be aware of this as faculty members. Because as we see, we don't know where the knowledge construction is occurring. Is it from the machine? Is it from the person? How do I know? Right? Ethan Mollick's used the term cyborgs and centaurs, right? You can easily tell the human from the horse. I would argue that that's not a good metaphor for AI. A chimera might be better, I don't know, a symbiote, because it's less obvious where the human begins and where the machine begins and where the knowledge construction is occurring when we're working with these tools, right? So we don't know sometimes. So if we come back to instructors' AI readiness, technological competence, pedagogical competence, and metacognitive awareness, we can come back to these perceived opportunities, and we can start talking about what this might look like for these different opportunities. So let's say, for example, instructional design. If I look at those three aspects, adaptive technological competence. I'm just playing with these words right now. I probably changed these myself. But competence is employing AI to develop instructional materials that are responsive to real-time feedback and data, for example, ensuring the design is continuously updated to meet the changing landscape. So do teachers have that competency when they're working? What about their pedagogical confidence? Are we training faculty members in different methodologies? And are they aware of how AI might augment that methodology, enhance it, right? But are faculty members able to utilize AI and think about the data and the outcomes that are coming out from the use of it and think critically, I'm doing this in my class with AI and the data is showing me that students aren't getting this information. Can I think about why that occurred and then go back and revise and rethink things through, right? So are we developing those kind of skills? If we look at assessment and evaluation with these three perspectives, do they have the ability to implement AI for automating and refining assessment and feedback mechanisms, for example? That's just one example, right? Julia, you've done a lot of work in this area now, and we can think of multiple examples, right? Analytical pedagogical competence. Am I able to take the learning analytics, the data from the assessments, and inform my teaching and learning or inform students? Or am I able to use things for just-in-time teacher intervention, right? But then if I'm using AI for my assessments, am I using it, for example, ethically? Am I able to see that, there's some sort of bias or some sort of problem that's occurring? Right? Can I mitigate that? Right? There's multiple areas we can think about this from these perspectives. Curriculum design. I'm not going to talk about these in detail as well. Right? I think I'm just trying to share ideas at the moment and how we might approach this. Right? Right? We heard curriculum earlier. Should we have just digital literacy courses so that students have to take and they can learn about the impact of AI on various aspects, or should we think about AI across the curriculum? What does that look like? Right? Integrating pedagogical competence, for example, and then strategic metacognitive awareness. Teachers must be able to anticipate how AI-driven changes in society and industry will influence learning objectives. Right? Are we able to think this through always? So how to support instructors in developing AI readiness? That's pretty simple, I think. But although it sounds simple, it's hard in practice. We need training and development programs, right? But of course, we need faculty members to want to attend these, and that's the struggle. Okay? We have units that can do it, but trying to get people in the audience is always a struggle. Collaborative learning and communities of practice. More of these, more events like this. one of the things that I've really been enjoying over the last year is that Hong Kong has a strong community in this area. A lot of people are sharing and talking amongst each others. LinkedIn, great community there, right? So more of this. And then institutional support, right? It does, leadership from the top down is important. And we are getting that, right? But this is very important. So I'll leave it there. I saw the 5 minutes is up. And I just want to say thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for your interesting talk. Now we welcome questions, please, from the audience. All right. Yeah.
Sean, for the wonderful sharing. Because the topic today is about how to get ready for AI from instructors' perspective as well. So I would like to ask, can AI support us to train instructors to develop multi-competence as well? Because you show us a lot of integrative skills. And then as instructors in EAP, ESP context or across discipline, it seems that we need to get trained with the support of AI. So would you mind sharing some example of how teachers can be trained with AI to get ready for AI as well?
It's a really good point. And get ready for AI in teaching and learning. I'll make it more specific in that sense. You know, when I use the tool for various things, I learned very quickly that if I lack pedagogical knowledge, the questions I ask in generative AI will be very vague, ambiguous, quite often useless. But because I already have pedagogical knowledge, it's my training, I can ask and I can revise my questions, I can do different prompt engineering, and then what it generates tends to be more useful. Right? I still need to intervene, right? I still need to make the final decisions. But it does help me look at things differently sometimes. Right? So our knowledge in our knowledge domain is still important. To help them become more AI literate, we need to remind them of that first, right? The human in the loop is still important. Because I think you might motivate faculty members more by reminding them that they're still important. Adding on to that with my other question, though, is we are experimenting with that very idea. And we're in the beginning stages of developing a co-designer platform with GPT-4 as the root, but we're having to add on additional technology and AI on top of that because it's not good enough on its own. And this platform is very much in the name of the co-designer, where the human's still in the loop. And it will help them think about how they can use the tools to enhance their teaching and learning. But the way the platform will be designed is to be a dialogic tool, right? So that it will have a framework in mind and it will ask them certain questions. And if they say, oh, I already thought about that, and then it will take them to another area and to think about that. It will also be populated with a knowledge base that we feel is important, but will also allow faculty members to upload their own knowledge base, right? And then they can save it and they can work on it collaboratively. So I think AI can be, and I think we will see that in the future, as a tool to help us enhance ourselves, right? And learn these kind of skill sets and apply AI or other technologies in teaching and learning. But I'll come back, you still need them to understand pedagogy themselves, right? Because otherwise they'll be asking the wrong questions. And AI is right now built to please, right? And it'll just give you questions. Well, it's a large language model acting on predictability, right? The answers it gives you is just a continuation of predictable words based on your prompt, right? So if you ask a silly question, it'll give you a silly answer, right? So these are a lot of the things we need. But yes, long answer to your question, yes, I think we can make use of these tools, but we need to strategically think about it. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Maybe we can take one more question, please. Yeah, just one more. Oh, there.
This is Wien Slai, who's from CPCECPR, Deputy Director, and also the Associate Head of the Division of Language and Communication. And we are currently developing a course on AI for language learning. So we would like to seek your comments, because we're thinking about the focus of the subject, more on prompt engineering or on how to help students not to be caught by any tools for using AI, etc. So or for ethics, etc. So we're thinking about focus. So we would like to get your comments or feedback. Thank you.
It's really interesting. I mean, my former background is language education. I think I like a few people here, and Julia, I'm sure you will have some points about this as well. Ben as well, I would assume, right? I'd like to learn more about what you want to do, actually, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for language education and how these tools can help students. If you're looking at it from a teacher perspective, an assessment perspective, I think it will always come down to what is it you're trying to assess, right? If you want to assess their proficiency, then we need to have more of a closed room kind of area, right? But if you're looking at the communication and their use and to help them become, I'm assuming you want them to be self-regulated learners and lifelong learners of language learning.
As well, yeah, because we're thinking about a GE course, general elective course for students from different disciplines. So, of course, maybe from the students' point of view, they're thinking about, okay, so yeah, I would like to know how to not being caught by using AI tools. Yeah, so that would be their focus. But at the same time, they may want to learn how to be more effective in prompt engineering at the same time. And we have to get the interest at the same time while we're delivering the course to help them with language learning, because now is the trend, and we'd like to have them reflect on how to use AI more effectively in order to learn language, etc.
Okay, so prompt engineering is a good start, but I'd be careful about that because the technology is adapting very quickly. Right? And so what might work now in approaches to prompt engineering might be different in a year or two from now, right? We just don't know. So if you're focusing too much on that, might be problematic. I'll come back to the metacognitive skills. Focusing on that and self-regulated learning and getting students to learn how they're using the tool based on principles, right? But understanding how the technology works is important. And then understanding how it impacts how they're accomplishing a task is very, very important. And they need to be metacognitively aware of how they're using the tool. Did their strategy change because of the output of the tool? Why? And is it leading them in a direction that might be inappropriate? Are they able to identify that? Right? Because these tools do have bias. Every tool from Google Bard to ChatGPT, they're all designed with different guardrails. They all work differently. Bard has a different personality, if we can use that word, right? Because they're not humans, but it has a different personality to ChatGPT and Bing, or now Copilot. So why? Why is that? And is it influencing their behavior and how they interact and learn with the tool? Right? And as a language learner, that's important as well. Yeah, I don't know if that helps, but yeah, we can always talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it's very valuable. Thank you very much, Dr. Mamin.
All right, so let's thank once again Dr. Sean Mackman. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sean. Coming up to plenary speeches, when both the speeches end, there will be a Q&A section for 10 minutes. Now, would moderators please introduce the next speaker? Thank you.
Okay, our next presenter is Dr. Benjamin Morehouse. Dr. Benjamin Luke Morehouse is an assistant professor in the Department of Education Studies, Hong Kong Baptist University. He leads the Generative AI Tools Task Force at the Hong Kong Baptist University. His publications about generative AI and education have appeared in RELC Journal, as well as Computers and Education Open and Computers and Education Artificial Intelligence. Dr. Benjamin was in the top 2% of most cited scholars in the world in 2022-23. He'll be talking on considering the professional generative AI competence teachers need in the generative AI age. So let's welcome Dr. Benjamin. Thank you.
Thank you. I think my talk actually is going to build on quite well from Sean and Julia's earlier talk. So I think there's quite a lot of synergy in the discussions today. And I'm looking also at competence, because I think as teachers, when we face new technologies, suddenly we go from feeling quite competent to fairly incompetent very quickly. And that's quite a scary thing for us, because we're used to being the experts in the room. And suddenly we're not anymore. And that can be really challenging, I think, and something that we have to reflect on, right, as teachers, and think about how do we address that in our, as we go forward, these rapid changes in technological advancements that are affecting us so much and so quickly. I want to start off by saying teachers have always had to do this. I think teachers have always had to kind of adapt for a number of reasons. One is that to capitalize on the advantage. One of our primary role is student learning and supporting student learning. So if new technologies come along that can help us to do that, it's our responsibility to utilize them to do that, right? We shouldn't be denying our students opportunities that can help them learn, and we shouldn't be creating a space that denies them or pretends those things don't exist. We should be capitalizing on them as best as we can. Second is that we need to prepare students for these changing realities. Julia kind of mentioned it earlier, that the skill sets and also the industry speakers, the skill sets that are necessary will change. So we need to also be, as teachers, we need to be bringing those into the classroom so they're experiencing those tools that they're going to be needing in those workplaces. And third is that we have to stay relevant. If students come to our classroom and say, what I'm getting from this teacher is not something that is actually valuable to me, I didn't come into this classroom and leave this classroom with anything new or different in terms of skills, knowledge, or even relationships with others, as in the networking skills, then why am I coming to class at all? And a lot of us were kind of shocked after COVID that a lot of students kind of had that opinion, right? That lack of relevance that they see in what we are doing. So because of this, we've always had to continue to develop new skills. We've always had to continue to be following these things and understanding these things. But I think how it's different now is the kind of radical change that we're experiencing. Technological advancements in the past went through, I think, kind of stages. Starting off with these kind of understandings that these things exist, some early adopters, and then slowly these would be integrated. Things like student management systems, student response systems, these kinds of tools that they had pedagogical benefit, but they were adopted slowly over time. Right? Some teachers tried them out, others did. School, institutions would then start to subscribe to them, promote them, and then eventually they became kind of standard within curriculum. Now, it's very different with generative AI, I think. It's much more rapid. Unfortunately, we're having to kind of catch up rather than kind of, I can't remember your term you used earlier, but rather than kind of stay ahead of the curve, we're kind of following the curve, trying to keep up with the curve, trying to understand the curve even. Because it's so rapid and so developmental, and because of this generative capability, which we haven't seen before with AI. Of course, AI has been around, but the mass utility, the fact that students have access themselves to these technologies relatively cheaply. I mean, they're expensive, but they're cheap, considering what they can do. And the kind of complexity of it, and the way that they can do things that never could be done before. This is just a quick example of a video generating one that I just want to share. Let's see. What?
嗨，如果你现在听我说，可能会觉得我说得很流利，但实际上我的中文水平很基础。
So you may have seen these kinds of things before, but my Mandarin is not that good, as much as my wife wishes it was, and 18 years of marriage has not led to that proficiency level. But yet I can demonstrate or imitate a competence that I don't have because of these tools. And this is what's also created this complexity in how we do things and how this new technology is very different from previous ones. And as teachers, we're having to really, really think about how we respond to this and what skills and knowledge we need to do that. The other thing is that teachers have started to use these tools. So I work a lot with primary school and secondary school teachers, and I did interviews last summer with teachers, and I was surprised how many teachers in primary and secondary school have already started to adopt these tools into their practices. One of the learning management systems that schools are subscribed to, called eClass, integrated ChatGPT into its platform around April last year, and that was very, very fast. So teachers in Hong Kong were accessing this tool before the general public were in Hong Kong, which was that, it was harder to get access to. I had to go through PO and other kind of platforms, or POE and other platforms. So they were using it. So it was understanding that teachers are using it, but we also understood they were using it not to its full potential, and they were not using it necessarily critically. Yet they understood the implications of it on society and also on teaching as well. So this is also something we can be conscious of. I'm going to talk a little bit now about some of the utilities for teaching and learning, and then some of the concerns, and then I'm going to present a kind of a framework that might help us to think about what we need as teachers. So a few of the things that generative AI may be able to help us within teaching and learning. Okay, so one I think is knowledge resource and developer. So as teachers, we can't know everything, and there's an expectation that we know more and more and more. And I think one thing that generative AI can help us to do is to kind of become a place that we can go to get some initial ideas or thoughts for where to explore. I've been using this in my research work a lot. So for example, I might be looking for a theoretical framework. I have some ideas in my mind which might be good theoretical frameworks, but then I'll put in my research question or research idea and say, what frameworks could I use here? And it will go, and there'll be maybe 2 or 3 of them that I haven't thought about, that I can then research further. So as a tool like that, it can be very, very useful. In the past, we may have used colleagues for that. We may have had to go to research books for that. But it would have been an arduous task. But now we can do it. Here's an example where, for a language teaching perspective, where we might be teaching a subject, for example, the difference between family relationships in English and family relationships in Chinese. They're very, very different, right? English, we're kind of simplistic. Everyone, there's grandparents, grandfather, grandmother, and it doesn't matter if it's paternal or fraternal, same thing. In Chinese, it's very complex. You have the first auntie, second auntie, third auntie, fourth auntie, second. So for learners of language, this can be complicated, right? Why are the systems so different? These kinds of tools can give that information to teachers so they can utilize that, right? And that knowledge and support their students' learning, right? So these kinds of things can be really useful in that sense. Preparation planning. Conversational AIs can be really good. So we're talking about LLMs here. These terms are still kind of being used. Different terms are being used. But definitely used as a way to get feedback on our ideas and thinking as we're going through. As Sean mentioned, they can be fairly positive. And I think they've been designed that way because nobody wants a tool that tells you you're rubbish or this is a bad idea. So I think we have to be conscious of that. But they can say, they may tell you, oh, there's another way you can do this. There's another activity. There's a gap here, something like this that might be useful for you to know. Creating resources for lessons. So this is an example using DALL-E, creating a teaching material for comparing tenses. Okay, so these are kind of some of the different ways. Creating personalized materials for learners, different materials of different proficiency levels. If you have different students of different backgrounds, information on different topic areas, if you have things, feeding in. A great idea is to use things like the voice. I forgot the name of it now. But a tool to record your lectures, turn that into transcript, and then use ChatGPT to turn that into lecture notes, and then turn those lecture notes into quiz items. Okay, so you can kind of go through these kind of stages with those as well. Personalized learning, which has been mentioned. So giving students tasks that allow them to interact with these tools. Sorry, my examples are mainly from language teaching because I gave a talk recently on the same topic and I didn't have time to make new ones. But we can see here that being used as a role play activity with the AI pretending to be Bruce Lee. And it's providing factual information about Bruce Lee. Because the database is big enough, it has enough information about Bruce Lee, it can draw on that to kind of give factually accurate responses, right? And because it knows its role, it knows how to do that. Because they're available 24/7, they can be accessed in and outside of classroom anytime, right? Which can be beneficial, okay? But again, metacognition is very important from the student because if they don't know how to interact with it, if they don't know what they're gaining from doing this, if they're not confident about using it and all these other things, then they won't be able to do these things. Interestingly, they can also provide supervised ones. So if you've got students with different proficiencies, if you prompt it, it can understand that proficiency and give responses on it. I like this one. Of course, I'll respond if I was Bruce Lee. Feel free to ask me anything. Be water, my friend, which I thought was very nice. Which kind of shows this idea that it really understands the role it's taking up in this role play, right? And which is cool. Okay. Assessment and feedback has been talked a lot about the last couple of days, so I'm not going to spend too long on it. And I'm going to talk about some of the issues with this in a minute. But we're definitely for creating rubrics, assignments for specific learners. So we haven't talked much about diversification of the curriculum or differentiation of the curriculum. But I think these actually provide opportunities for that. Instructional standardization, assessment standardization has been a problem in Hong Kong from kindergarten all the way through to doctoral level. So these tools do provide a way for us to kind of take away, well, it's too much time consuming to differentiate. Now we say, well, this is my task. How could I differentiate this for these learners? How can I differentiate it for these learners? And it can give us ideas to help us to do that, right? Which we can then critique and consider if they're useful for us. Providing personalized feedback to students' work. And then can also provide verbal feedback now for some as well. So this is a task. This is some feedback that I gave to a task of my students, of one of my students' pieces of work, and very detailed feedback that I would probably not have time to give for my large classes of 50 plus master's students, right? So issues to consider when integrating generative AI into teaching and learning. So I'm just going to gloss these, but I think a lot of them are familiar to us already. And Sean mentioned some of these as well. So things like accuracy. So these models are getting better at accuracy. Less hallucinations, which is also becoming a problematized term now because I think it's being fed to us by tech companies, because basically lying. They lie less now. But at the same time is that a lot of that accuracy is related to how we interact, right? The prompting, the context and things like this affect the accuracy. If it doesn't know what we're asking for, then how can the response be accurate? Those kinds of things. Bias. Bias, I think, is a big issue, and also overcorrection of bias, where these models have been trained to provide diversity when diversity doesn't make sense. So we've seen the images of Second World War German soldiers of multiple ethnicities and things like this, right? Because you type in the prompt, please create an image of a German soldier in 1942, and then that prompt gets turned into another prompt that basically includes things like include multi-ethnic people, include different people of different genders, and then you get this image of an Asian female German soldier in 1942 because the overcorrection of bias, because of the issue of bias, right? Privacy, this idea that, our data is being used, and then once it's there, because it gets put into this data set, it can't be taken out. So this is a big issue now. Things like in the European Union have been talking about, the right to be forgotten, where tech companies should be able to erase our presence on the internet. When it goes into these large language model training data sets, very hard to erase that. So these kinds of issues. Obviously, there's big issues with improper use and overuse, particularly around deepfakes, impersonations. These are big issues I think we have to be conscious of as teachers when we're talking about these tools and using these tools, right? Copyrighted data. So I think this is a big issue. Again, something we haven't thought much about because these tools are so awesome that we don't realize that actually they have the big tech companies have kind of taken the kind of Uber approach, the Deliveroo approach, which is break the law because we're so big, and then because we get so big and so necessary, no one will dare to turn us off. So I think this has got to be something we're very conscious of. There's some court cases going through this year with Taylor Swift, New York Times, others. The results of those will be very interesting, but these companies are so massive now. They have the resources to deal with this. for the little guys like us, if they take our intellectual property, I don't know what we do. I don't think Baptist University is going to sue OpenAI because they use one of my articles in their trading data. So I don't think they will. Learning motivation. I think this is something that hasn't got enough attention yet. Learning motivation in the sense that why do we need to learn what we're learning now? This leads to kind of need for curriculum reform dramatically, because we need to think, what do they need to learn now or in the future? The future is always hard to predict, but even now is something we need to think about. As a language person, I've started to understand is like, what's going to be the extrinsic motivation to learn language, or the pragmatic reason to learn language. If you have a device that can simultaneously translate you to you highly accurately in many domains, then the need to learn a foreign language is going to be much more intrinsic and about why do we learn to ride bicycles rather than, it's going to be that kind of motivation, the kind of intrinsic benefit of learning, rather than the learning for the pragmatic benefit. So that's something we all have to think about, because our programs are all becoming very career orientated, very pragmatically orientated. But at the same time, a lot of what we teach may not be necessary in the career world in the future. So we also have to think about the learning for self-development, self-improvement, self-worth. This is who I am. I am someone who can speak a foreign language. I am someone who can ride a bike. I am someone who is good at chess. These are things that we don't need, but that yet we can see as part of who we are, right? So I think that's something we have to think about for motivation. I've seen articles now that ChatGPT makes students more motivated. I think these are to do with the kind of tech curve. When we try something new, everyone goes, wow. But I think the long term, the effect on motivation could be quite negative unless we think more carefully about these things, okay, what we are actually teaching for and what they're learning for. Equity of access, creating a huge divide right now. Most of the University of Hong Kong have been very quick to, which is great, quick to kind of have a baseline where everyone's got access to a model. But we know that that's the basic model. Generally, even if it's ChatGPT-4 Turbo, which we're getting, the number of tokens they get is less. They're using other platforms if they want more than that, right? And we know there's differences in like Cloud and Bing and Gemini. These all have different utility, different algorithms, different abilities. And then if you have access to more of them, you have access to more. It elevates you if you can use them well. A lack of creativity and originality. I think this is a big issue. Look at Amazon now says they just put a clause on now that an author can only self-publish 3 books a day. 3 books a day. So 1,500 books a year sorry, my math is bad. 1,000 books a year roughly you can publish a year on Amazon because they're getting too many generative AI created books. So they put a cap on 3 a day. 3 a day seems a lot. How are we going to have original creative contribution? And how does our original creative contribution get noticed in the sea of all that? This is going to be a real challenge for us. Okay, 3 minutes. I don't have enough time. You need to give me longer next time. Environmental impact. So I think this is another thing that we haven't talked much about. These data centers that they run on are massive. They're consuming so much energy and water. I think I read recently in a Nature article that each prompt, each query that you put into ChatGPT consumes 3 times as much energy as a Google search. So these are things that we're not thinking about necessarily when we're using these things. But as teachers, we need to be thinking about, because we have responsibility beyond just teaching our students the subject knowledge that we're teaching, right? We're teaching them to be holistic citizens in this world. This is just a couple of images to show differences as well. So this relates to copyright, I think, if I remember why I put them there. But interestingly, Stable Diffusion, which is an image generating one, is quite happy to give you copyrighted images, no trouble. Okay, type in Superman, it will give you Superman. Type in Winnie the Pooh, it will give you Winnie the Pooh. This is Buzz Lightyear. So this would be breaking copyright in most contexts, right? Like creating an image which is not authorized by Disney. Yeah? You do the same thing to DALL-E, which is OpenAI's one. It will not give it to you, no matter how hard you ask. And I asked really hard. I really wanted Winnie the Pooh, and it would not give me Winnie the Pooh. Okay? But then you know that it knows what Winnie the Pooh is because it gave me a bear, right? Winnie the Pooh, the term Winnie the Pooh does not have bear in it. So Winnie the Pooh exists in its training data set, but it doesn't give you the image because it's been trained not to give you the image because of copyright. Are they both breaking copyright? We don't know. One of them clearly is. The other one could be, because it's using the image to generate another image, right? Okay, so this is also the complexity of it, and something we haven't also been talking much about, I feel, in our sectors. So what does this lead me to my conclusion is that we need to be thinking beyond kind of technological and pedagogical competence here, but thinking more holistically as a teacher and the kind of competences we need. And I call it professional generative AI competence, coming from professional competence. And a few questions that I kind of pose in these things is, what do teachers need to know about the inner workings, features, affordances, and limitations of these tools? So what do we need to know about these tools themselves, right? Okay, so we need knowledge about these tools. We need to understand how they work. How can one create Winnie the Pooh and one doesn't, right? How come one gives me a picture of, can pretend to be Bruce Lee and one can't? Okay, these are things that we need to be able to understand. We need to understand things like context window. We need to understand things like, what else? Temperature, things like this. We need to understand these concepts, right? Because if not, we can't use these tools right? So we can also select the tools that best suit our purpose, yeah? Or select multiple tools that serve our purpose. What skills and knowledge do teachers need in our specific domains? Understanding that different domains will need different tools. You know, recently I had to go talk to our Chinese medicine colleagues, which was very scary for me because I know nothing about Chinese medicine, and I was trying to talk to them about AI, and I'm here, they're there, and we're like, I don't know where we are, like on completely different wavelengths, right? But then knowing that they will need different kinds of understandings of AI than I need, right? You know, they were less concerned of it because these models, they haven't got much Chinese medicine data, so we're not too concerned. Students are going to try and use them, and they're not going to work very well for them because the data set's so small, and there's so much that's not in those data sets, right? So I was like, oh, that's interesting for me, from a language person, because everything's in there in my subject area, right? And then professional work. I think we talked a little bit about this. Is what do we need outside of the classrooms as well, right? And university have been quite quick to give us guidance on the first parts. How can we use them in our classrooms? But they haven't talked about how we use them outside of our classrooms. Our administrators in our universities haven't been told how they can use them in administrative work. Our research office hasn't told us how we can use them in our research work. The work outside of classrooms hasn't been really addressed much. Yeah. And then this idea that we also have to be conscious that every time we're using these tools with learners, or advising learners about these tools, or talking about these tools with learners, we have to be conscious of this greater thing. And I think well-being is getting more attention now in higher education, which I think is a good thing, but it's getting a lot of attention because it's becoming such a big problem. I think generative AI is leading into that more. There's going to be more of this concept of like, well, what am I going to be doing when I finish? I'm doing all this knowledge, these skills things, but the pool is getting smaller of jobs because the job market will change, right? I saw an analogy once, about radiologists. We'll still need radiologists, but we'll need less of them because those radiologists will be able to do more because they'll be more productive. But there'll be no more patients that need radiologists, if that makes sense, right? There'll be a finite number of patients. So you can't increase the pool of clients in every domain. We don't need, so these are kind of things you have to be conscious of. Time is up, okay. And then I think remembering that we also have the responsibility to teach our students how to use these tools. So that's another demand that we have as well on top of that. Okay. So my final slide, and then I'm going to just give you some articles to look at if you're interested. Will we need teachers in the future? Not bad ones. I think that's my conclusion. I think we've been lucky in the sense that anyone can be a teacher, but now I think students will only be interested in good ones because they have to see relevance. If they come to our class and they don't think that we're helping them to learn something, then they will not come to our class. If they can come to our class and think this person's actually helping me to learn something, then they'll stay. So I think all of us have to become our expectations sing lay. like the expectations on everyone will go up, and we'll have to do more there. Okay. So, like mentioned, I do have some articles, so I'm doing some self-promotion. I'm an academic, so I have to do some self-promotion. These are all open access articles on generative AI, so if you're interested in any of them, feel free to scan them, download them, and cite them if you get the chance. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Benjamin, for interesting talk. Thanks a lot. Okay. Our next presenter is Dr. Adam Wong. He's a senior lecturer, Division of Science, Engineering, and Health Studies at PolyU, CPCE here. Dr. Wong has over 20 years of experience in the information technology industry. He has published in international conferences and international peer-reviewed journals. He has also implemented government-funded research and education enhancement projects. He'll be talking on making our graduates ready for the AI era through multimodal learning and teaching. He'll be presenting online. So let's welcome Dr. Wong. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for inviting me to this seminar. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yes, we can.
Yes, I can. Okay, very good. Thank you. I have to apologize for the fact that I cannot share my screen. I mean, I cannot turn on my camera. We found out this problem during the rehearsal, but it could not be fixed. So I must apologize for that. I understand that I'm the last session of today, so I don't want to delay your lunch for too long. So let's be very concise. The topic of my presentation is making graduates ready for the AI era through multimodal learning and teaching. So this is my agenda here, and you may find that some of the topics may have been covered by my previous speakers. Okay, so I try to avoid the repetition as much as possible. So what's the difference? When you talk about AI, we have to rather specific about what kind of AI we are talking about. As Ms. Morehouse has clearly shown us, okay, there's a difference between generative AI or Gen AI and the previous predictive AI. So we are more familiar with the predictive AI, okay? But since the end of 2022, okay, especially with the launch of ChatGPT, more and more people and students are familiar with the concept of using generative AI. And of course, they can do quite different things. Okay, predictive AI is like predicting the stock price, look at a picture and try to find out whether it's a dog or a cat, and so on. But generative AI can create new and creative outputs. Okay, as other speakers have demonstrated, okay, you can give it a prompt and it can give you a very creative image or a similarly creative article. Okay, but there's a limitation to that creativeness, okay, because these creations, or images or text, are generated based on existing materials that has been fed into the model. Okay, so they are the creativeness is quite limited, you may say. And no matter it's predictive AI or generative AI, they both require some kind of training data, and this will become a limitation, as I will mention later on. Okay. The technical details of these two technologies may not be too concerned to our students. Okay, but they need to understand the limitations behind it, such as the bias, again, and the ethical aspects and copyright that other speakers have mentioned. Okay, so let's move on. Now, what's the impact of AI on our students? Well, it's making a lot of changes, okay, and maybe employers do expect the students to be able to use some of these AIs. Okay, so the demand is different. They may demand a quicker turnaround time from our graduates. The students today, they have been using AI tools to complete assignments. Okay, and this applies to all courses in all business sectors. It can be engineering, it can be business, and maybe language. Well, my personal evidence is that I have been in the past, okay, before 2023, the emails I received from my students are not structured. The mannerism is bad, the grammar is bad, and so on. There's no organization. But these days, when I receive an email, even from a very a student who is struggling with all his subjects, including language, they can write me a word perfect email requesting something. Okay, but clearly it was not written by this student. Okay, but that's only anecdotal evidence. And well, if students are good at using AI, okay, especially Gen AI, to produce some work to meet our assessment requirements, they may not meet the requirements of the workplace these days. Okay, so they can achieve good grades, but their competency is low. In Chinese, we call it 高分低能. Okay, so they are good at prompt writing, but may not be so good at elaborating the results. So imagine that our graduates are in a business meeting, and they can give a very nice-looking PowerPoint with all the images. Okay, but then if the clients ask them to elaborate on a certain point, they may not be able to, because they didn't create those points in the first place. And then there's discussions. Okay, so discussions are usually real-time, whether it's online or face-to-face. They're online. They have no time to ask ChatGPT or other tools to give them the response. Okay, they may be given some options. Okay, the clients or their boss may give them some 2 or 3 solutions or suggestions, and then they have to select one. Okay, and debate. Now, all these are demands of the workplace in the real world that generative AI cannot help. So, what's the solution? Well, of course, my topic is multimodal learning and teaching, and this is my proposed solution. Of course, there are maybe other solutions as well, okay, but that is the one I'm focusing on. So MMLT, okay, as the name implies, it combines multiple modes of information delivery and interaction. Now here are just a few examples. Okay, there are many other forms of MMLT. So blended learning. So if some of the lessons are online and some of them are face-to-face, it can be regarded as MMLT. Okay, but of course, when we think of MMLT, we may be thinking more about students and teachers using not only text and images, but also videos and even simulations. Like today, it's very common to use AR and VR for students to experience something they otherwise cannot experience. There are benefits of MMLT. Okay, these points are quite obvious, so I will not be spending too much time on that. Now, what are the challenges in MMLT? Okay. Now, we are given the fact that students should understand and use AI tools. Okay, I think the other speakers have all clearly explained this point. Okay, so we cannot avoid that. But we have to also understand that students who obtain good grades in assessments may not work the demands at the workplace. So what are the demands at the workplace? Well, they want creativity. They want someone to be able to think out of the box. So in the AI that we use today, the images and text are created based on the data we feed into them in language models and so on. So the creativity is really limited. Okay, you can ask 10 students to come up with solutions, and if they use the same product, you are ending up with 10 very similar solutions. Handiness. Okay, so if you're in a business meeting, you cannot wait for the other side should wait for about 20 seconds and I'll give you the results. And even then, they may not be able to communicate the results they created, okay, after those 20 seconds. Okay. And you cannot ask AI to help you with the teamwork. So when you face, when you are working with other people, everything matters. Your gesture, your facial expressions, your voice, everything matters. Okay? And AI cannot help you with that. Not directly, of course, indirectly perhaps, just like in MMLT. Now, our focus will be focusing on the multimedia approach. So when I talk about MMLT, I will be referring to the multimedia approach, in which the teacher can use multimedia, and the students should use multimedia in their work. Okay, if you want to know more, you can refer to the work by Fleming, which is summarized by the acronym WAC. Okay, V is visual, A is audio, R is for reading. Basically, this means text. Okay, Kin is kinesthetic. It means simulation. So you can think of this as role plays, watching videos, or these days, virtual reality. I think I have to speed up a little bit. Now, I'm suggesting that in MMLT, students should submit their work, okay, in multiple modes. Okay. However, there are some problems. Okay. Today, we have very good software, for example, Turnitin, for checking plagiarism. Okay. But not so much when students submit their images or video. Okay. And if we don't have tools that are effective in assessing students' work, okay, it will be difficult to maintain consistency in marking non-text submissions. And videos are fun to watch, but they are hard to recall and compare. So more effort will be involved in viewing and marking videos. And because of that, the students may not receive their feedback in time. And this is a proposed framework of using natural language processing, NLP, for MMLT. As I said before, students, they can use whatever sources they would like. They may search the internet, and of course, these use all the tools that other speakers have mentioned, like ChatGPT, and then they can try to do some kind of editing or paraphrasing. Now, if we don't ask them to submit a video to the teacher, then they probably do not really understand the materials behind it. So my proposition is to ask them to submit a video to explain what they have done. Now, this video may not be limited to explaining or elaborating the points in the materials. Okay, it can also include how the students arrived at that conclusion. Okay, we may ask them to show the search process, or maybe ask them to write to show how the prompts are created. Okay, and how they modify the results suggested by ChatGPT and then become his own work. Okay, and the teacher have to watch the video and then try to mark it. But there's a problem. Okay, let's go to the next slide first. Okay. The problem is that we have to ask the teachers to be aware of this, okay, and then to try to get their buy-in, to use automatic tools for marking multimedia submissions from students. Okay, so that we want them to agree on this idea and get on our bandwagon. And we need some development, teacher development on assignment and assessment design. Okay, because in the era of AI or Gen AI, you cannot just design your assignments and assessments in the same way as before. And when the teachers grade the assignments, they are grading images, text, and video. And I'm suggesting that the teachers can use image analytics and NLP to assess the students. And the benefits of that is less error prone. Okay, because when you watch a video, you may be missing some words on the video. You cannot effectively compare one video with another. And using these tools can make the marking more objective. Okay, this may look more fair to the students. And with these tools, the turnaround time is reduced. So you can imagine that if you have a class of 100 students, and each student gives you a 2-minute video, there would be just 200 minutes of watching the video alone. Okay, and then on top of that, you have to write your feedback, and then you may have compare a few videos to make sure that your marking is consistent for all the students. Okay, so let's go look at the limitations. As other speakers have mentioned, okay, AI tools, they need to be trained. Okay, so if I only have a small class, okay, and my assignment is rather unique, then I will not be able to use that NLT or image analytics, which are themselves AI tools. I cannot use them to help me with my MMLT. And the same rationale applies to short courses. Of course, in short courses, I may not have time to build a model because there are only 2 lessons. Okay, so I don't have time to collect enough assignments to data to train my model, to train the NLP and the image analytics. Okay. And in some cases, you may have to do the programming yourself, and this can be difficult for teachers who don't have an AI background. And it may not be suitable for all subjects. Okay, currently I'm thinking like something like art. Okay, may not be very suitable. And then we need to think about assignment design. Okay, and today there's not much research in this area. Okay, how to design assignments that can mitigate the effect of generative AI. So basically, there's my presentation, and I will welcome any questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Adam Wong. Now we have the Q&A section. Anyone have question on Adam Wong and also Benjamin?
I've got Mike. Thank you. I've got a question for Professor Morehouse. So I'm also a language teacher. I teach English, and I'm just wondering, if there is any research about when or kind of in what kind of assignments students tend to kind of resort to AI immediately, because I have this experience of teaching a storytelling subject, and when it's their own story, they tended not to use AI because they're more invested in the authenticity of the creation, right? And when it's the reflection, like course reflection, because of time pressure and also their confidence in English, they just all used AI, which was a bit of shock to me because I thought, oh, it's a reflection. You have to use your own experience. So is there anything about students' tendency on, using AI when and in what situations that they would opted not to use AI? Yeah.
I think you answered your own question. I think if the students see the task as personal and as valuable to them, then they are likely to not use AI improper. I think we've got to remember there's also got to make distinctions between proper and improper use of AI, because these are multifunctional tools, aren't they? So this is the complexity we're facing now. Whereas in the past we could say, don't use this or do use that. Now we have a tool that is multifunctional. So there will be certain times when it's okay to use a tool in a certain way, and then in another way is not okay. And that could be task specific, course specific, depending on course learning outcomes and other things, right? So in a language course, you might be teaching introductory English course. You probably don't want students to be using AI for proofreading. But then in another course, you want them to be using it for proofreading. So this is the complexity of this thing. So I think you kind of answered it. They obviously saw value in the story writing activity. They see that it's a personalized task which involves them, and they want to express their thoughts on that thing through that mode. Therefore, they're not using it improperly. And then the reflection activity, obviously, they didn't see value in that. So therefore, they outsourced it. Yeah. We do the same thing. I have an RA. There's tasks that I ask her to do that I don't want to do, or I don't see value in doing myself, and there's tasks that I do that I want to do that I see value in doing myself. So ChatGPT is just our students' RA. Oh, in that sense, I'm lucky to have an RA. They don't generally have RAs. So I think that's what it is. The research on this is still very early days. I mean, I think it's all very most of the things that we're talking about are very conceptual. There's been very few empirical studies on the actual use of AI by students. Yeah. There's perceptual studies coming out, which is normally the trend. Research is behind. It takes a long time to go through peer review. I can imagine that at the end of this year, we'll start to see kind of more substantive papers exploring cases of use and more experiential designs around how students and other people are using these tools. But at the moment, we can kind of take basic pedagogical principles and relate them to AI and basic human psychological behaviors and relate them to how they would use AI. And I think that can help us to kind of understand why they would do the things they do. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm thinking about what we would do in their situation, and that's pretty good guide to it too.
Yeah. Any more question? Adam, I have a question on you. You mentioned the NLP to assess the student. Can you elaborate a bit more? NLP, I assume, is natural language processing. Am I right? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Yes, good question. I'm sorry that I didn't elaborate on that clearly during my presentation. NLP is natural language processing. So if I ask a student to give me an assignment, let's say if it's a test, then it would be rather easy to design some multiple choice questions, and the marking is really easy, okay, or fill in the blanks. But if I ask a student to submit a piece of work using like a video, now the text is embedded into the video, okay, unless we ask that student to submit a script of the video, which can be very troublesome, especially in the eyes of the student. So now natural language processing has a lot of uses. Of course, the most obvious one is to check the grammar and the structure and so on. Okay, but then another one is to what we call similarity, or you can generate a similarity index, much like what you are getting these days from Turnitin. So what I'm proposing is the teacher may come up with some kind of model answer, you may say, which contains all the concepts or examples that they expect the student to use in their answers. Okay, and then we can use the NLP to do a similarity between the student's work and the teacher's model answer. And of course, the AI has to use some kind of speech recognition to extract text from the video and then compare with the teacher. I have done some initial studies myself, and the result is either very low or too high. Okay, the similarity is very low, although the student is a good student, because of problems in the pronunciation, in the grammar. Okay, the model cannot figure it out what exact word the student is using, or too high because in a language model, you can say one word and then it can mean many things, and then the computer thinks that this one word in the student matches one of the words in the model answer, but in fact it doesn't. It doesn't. But that's the problem, the limitation I mentioned earlier on, because if you use the language models pre-trained by someone else, we have no control. Okay, especially when you are teaching a discipline-specific subject, such as engineering, okay, or health sciences. Okay, certain words have special meanings. So I don't want to spend too much time in my answer, but like the other speaker has said, the research is still in the early days. We need to do more. Okay, especially we need to have some custom trained models for a particular discipline, or even for a particular class. Thank you, Eamon.
Thank you, Dr. Wong, and thank you, Benjamin. May I pass to our MC?
Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Adam. Especially Adam, I know that it's time is actually very early in the UK, so thank you for joining us despite the time difference. And thank you all for the wonderful talks. May we now invite Professor Hu Xiang'en to deliver the closing remarks. Professor Hu is Director of Institution for Higher Education Research and Development, Director of Educational Research Center, and Chair Professor of Learning Sciences and Technologies at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University. Professor Hu, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm so glad that I have the opportunity to meet everybody. This is my 4th month on campus, so I'm so glad that we got the distinguished speakers for this 2 days. So if I knew this a little bit late, otherwise I would volunteer myself to present the work. But I do have some observations that I would like to share, take advantage of the closing remark. And I think this is an opportunity also for everybody to know me and also know everybody, especially for my Hong Kong colleagues in other universities. So now, just to introduce, I'm taking the role of the director of the institute, and also I am a chair professor of learning science technologies. I do want to share some of my observations. Hopefully, this is it's not really perfect closing remark. But I do want to play, first to play a host, so I want to thank everybody. I am, although 4 months here, I'm still, PolyU faculty, okay? So here's something that I want to, by the observation that I have, and we have a lot of talk about generative AI. We have all different aspects, but when I was working on this one for the last almost a year and a half, I realized there were a lot of misconceptions. When you talk to different people, they have different ways of understanding, AI or generative AI. So I have like 3 different levels. Basically, this is something that you interact with OpenAI or PoE. You basically directly interact with foundational AI. And then there are a lot of issues. There are hallucination. There are things that you can name it. Okay, but because of those problems, actually there's a second level of AI that actually the computer scientists started to overcome the issues. They put together a committee. So you have one instance of AI that make mistakes. They put them together. So that's where the agents framework is working. Actually, right now, if you still think about AI give you hallucinations, you either did not use the right AI or use it wrong. Because a lot of applications don't directly use the first level anymore, unless you are just using the web. You're using the first level, you're going to get hallucinations. But if you use agents, they're unlikely give you wrong answers. They're most of the time give you true answers. Okay. The third one is actually application level. So in other words, when we are educational researcher, we're more like at the third level, especially if we encourage everybody to use generative AI in the first level, we're going to be disappointed. Actually, we have issues. Okay, so basically, we talk about issues about using it. Different ways of using it. I call it abuse of generative AI in education, especially if you use generative AI as extension of search engine. You don't get those threats. Actually, I used to call the sins, fatal sins, like evil. But actually, those are the kind of threats that you actually have. At one conference, I asked everybody to vote. Nobody against those 8, identified 8 threats. Now, in order to, now you see, those are the issues. Now, well, of course, as learning science and technology, we need to provide solutions. So how do we do that before generative AI? We have this AI in education for years, for decades, right? What do we usually do? We look at a holistic picture. You were talking about, have a holistic picture of the things. So here's a holistic picture. This is a simple yet a holistic picture of research, development, and innovation of educational science and technology. Basically, we have theories. We need to study advanced theories of learning. We have a lot of cognitive psychology develop a lot of theories, right? How people learn, learning principles, all the way at the details. We have the detailed learning principle about how feedback work, how all those deeper questions. So that's a theory. And the second one is the enabling technology. Now obviously we have those. But the third one is actually strategic applications, because those is a unique combination of theory and the technology. You may have application for reading, but not necessarily working for math, right? So they actually need to have a strategic application. But the fourth one is actually efficacy of learning, because right now, so far, everything we create, it's almost like a nutritional product. It's GNC, nutritional project. We do not do a good job of doing efficacy studies. That is the issue, because given that you have threats, they come in with side effects, but we have to identify them. Okay? So that's really an issue. So in other words, now of course we're lucky that we have so many people that are working on pedagogy research. By our profession, every teacher, we are, by training and by our profession, we are pedagogical researchers. If you spend extra time to prepare your PowerPoint, you are doing research on pedagogy. You want to make your student learn, okay? But that really motivated me, also, I think everybody, that we actually have a lot of support for the research that we do. And then this conference basically just says that, okay? So evaluation is something that we really want to do, because the more powerful the technology, the more careful we need to pay to the efficacy study, because every student spends extra 30 minutes. If you aggregate it like millions of students, you're wasting a lot of time. Okay, so here's the framework that actually, since I am the director of this research development center, this is a research program framework. So I have those 4 aspects: theory, technology, application, and then efficacy. And also, in order to really have everything that we do really use it to the students, we really need to do a rigorous study, like pharmaceutical companies. If we really want to make something that make the students spending time, we need to follow a certain kind of production, a rule. So here is research, innovation, development, and the evaluation and the implementation. So that's something that we have to do. Just play a responsible pedagogical researcher as teachers. Okay, so I also want to take this opportunity to really introduce iHeart, because at the PolyU that we have this institute for that kind of purpose. So this is us, and we actually have a lot of funding. So even for the faculty and then in PolyU, and also I think I'm so glad that we not only that we have a lot of people. This is actually the fellows in PolyU that I've been working with everybody so far. In my last 4 months, I met every single one of the fellows. I'm truly inspired, and their motivation and their devotion to education and to pedagogical research. And I would like to also involve or encourage other universities to help to really work on this one. This is it's our profession, and it's also our passion. Okay, and then of course, we offer a lot of things. I do want to share this one. We encourage everybody to come in. Not only we do use AI, we actually trying to maximize and feature human instructors. We invite the very, very, I think, visible instructors that actually using pedagogy in their teaching. We actually invite this Ray at this month. Okay, so that's what I want to encourage everybody to come. And then now, of course, hand waving, and then it's cheap. So I do want everybody to try that. This is something that I produced. By the way, I'm also a programmer. I'm still programming up 3 hours a day, just for fun, okay? So I want you to scan this one and see what you have. I actually created for this conference. See whether you actually can do. That's really also test how good how good a programmer I am. Okay, so you actually can see that. Good. Click on one of those. One of the link. Let's go. There actually goes. Not the book, just the link, and then click on that link to generate. Click the link over here. Generate. Yeah, just link. Not like here. Yeah. So you actually, this is actually the way that I produce to avoid those threats. And it's actually, you can see this is a Socratic playground I produced for PolyU and also partners. Okay, so that was finish my closing remark. Again, I want to thank everybody to come this 2 days. And then welcome everybody to be working with iHeart. And then I know that Julia and I, we're so glad everybody's here, and we would like to get this kind of activities as often as we want. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Hu.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, as a token of appreciation, we now have a lucky draw for our on-site participants again. Yes. Eric, please.
Yeah, so whenever you see me take the stage, that's usually me breaking good news. So I'll share my screen. So that will be a quick lucky draw. So every one of you who are in the room have a chance. So I'm not a programmer, so I have to rely on some online resources. Anything that's handy. So there was supposed to be noises, but I just toggle it off. So let's see who's the first. So we've got a few prizes out there, and we have 5. So the first lucky person is Sylvia. So do we have to fill in a form to declare the conflict of interest? She's actually my RA. So
Can we have
please invite? Yeah.
Dr. Esther Tong, division head, also head of CPCECPR, to present the gift.
Okay, we have 4 more prizes. They are not very big ones, but they are all valuable ones. Maggie. So could we please invite Maggie? Maggie number 1, Maggie number 2. Okay. So what's the term for that if after 3 times there was no response? Okay, Janice. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Janice.
So far, so everybody I know get a prize. So it seems that I have to fill out a form. Okay. Congratulations, Janice. Phoebe, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much for joining us for 2 days, for 2 whole days. Thank you so much for being our moderator. Thank you so much. Wishing you all the best. And now we have a relatively larger prize. It's all relative. Okay, and Miss Jin Liu. Do we have Jin? Jin number 1, Jin 2, Jin 3? Oh, sorry. So she's very kind to give away her opportunity. So another Jing. So we have a Jing, Angel. Congratulations. So she's been working very hard to help us connect participants online from Weixin and connected the Honorable Ju Guokeng for a keynote address. So thank you so much, Angel. Okay, so last but not the least, who's the lucky last? Professor Chunfang Huang. Okay, so thank you, Professor Huang. Mr. Edward Chen. Edward. Okay, thank you, Edward. For the record, because he's still recording. Oh, Henry! Thank you so much. Yeah, so
Congratulations,
congratulations. Julia, I took out my name, so couldn't stand a chance. Thank you, Esther. Congratulations, Henry. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And now we would like to have your feedback for day 2. So would you please spend a few minutes on site and also online? So we've got a survey. You can scan the QR code.
Hang on. Coming.
And give us your valuable feedback. Okay, and for people who are online, the QR code and the link are also included in the Zoom chat room for your action.
Yeah, it would be best if you scan the QR code, for we don't have the link right now.
Okay. Yeah,
so
please
I'll do my best.
Scan the QR code. Thank you.
And the certificate will be sent to all registered attendees shortly after the conference. Speakers' presentation slides will be uploaded to the conference website by the end of this month.
Okay, and we're only 10 minutes late. May we thank all of you, honorable guests, speakers, and participants, again for your valuable contribution and your wonderful thoughts, and thank you for attending. So at the beginning of today, I said that if you stay for the last week, it's the test of true love. So yeah, this is tested, and now we're ready to tie the knots, right? So we look forward to more research collaborations and marriage between like linguistics and pedagogical research, literature and pedagogical research, all sorts of collaborations. So thank you so much for this wonderful conference. Thank you, Eric, for pulling everything together. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, everyone. It's been a great pleasure to have you, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And don't forget to follow our IG. Thank you.